Item is a general public comment. So if there's anyone here tonight that had any general comments, now is the time to do that. My understanding, Oscar and Giovanna, is that if anyone is here about the naming request, this is that time is over. So this is just for general public comment.
Okay, so for anybody from the public that has joined in, if you'd like to make a comment now, please click the raise hand button within Zoom, and I'll unmute you to speak. I'll give you a few seconds to do that. It does not look like there's anyone that's raising their hand.
Great. Okay. Well, we'll move on then to the next item, which is an action item. We have two tonight. The first is regarding the All Faith Chapel renaming request. We've heard quite a bit about it in the past couple meetings, so I don't expect that there's any questions from the board, but if there are, now would be the time to bring up any questions or comments before we take action. Hearing none, is there anyone who would like to make a motion?
Make a motion.
To approve the renaming request?
Yes.
Okay.
Second. Carol Love.
That was Marcia and Dr. Love as a second. Great, thank you. And thanks to everyone who came tonight to hear about the naming request and for all of your great comments over the past couple months. Okay.
So we have to vote.
Yeah. Thanks, Dr. Love. Yeah, I forgot about that part. So all those in favor, say aye.
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 And raise your hand because it's hard to tell. Thank you. Okay. Any against, any nays? Hearing none, it has been approved. Great.
I'm going to step off the meeting. Thank you, everybody, and for all of your time over the last few meetings.
Thanks, Sean.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks for coaching me there. I'm going to need a lot of that, so I appreciate it. So we have another action item tonight, which is the Raleigh Youth Council action item. I believe we have a presentation from staff.
Yes, good afternoon or evening, Park Board. This is an item that's coming back from our previous meeting when we had both Kent Hunt and Carmen Miles, who are our teen program administrators. They had basically gotten a lot of your feedback about the role that RYC, the Raleigh Youth Council, would play with Park Board. They went back to the Raleigh Youth Council Executive Board and came back with a recommendation on how to move forward and how that relationship is going to be with Park Board moving forward. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and hand it over to Kent and Carmen. They can go ahead and present their recommendation to you all for action.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Kent Hunt, the Team Program Director with the City of Raleigh Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resources Department. Carmen, are you on as well?
I'm here.
All right. Carmen, do you mind going ahead and sharing your screen just for our one slide on our recommendations?
Sure. Give me 1 second here. Is that working?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect.
All right, let me. Sorry. Here we are. All right, thank you all for having us back again tonight. So we were able to meet with the Raleigh Youth Council Executive Board to discuss all of the information that we all went over last time with you all and talk to them about the potential partnership moving forward. The Executive Board was excited to work with the Greenway Advisory Board. They were very inquisitive about some of the things that you all are responsible for and just overall what you guys do as a whole. And so they came up with a couple recommendations. And the first one that they came up with was to have a representative from the Greenway Advisory Board come out and speak to the council and just kind of go over some of the initiatives and or the mission and things that you all are responsible for, and just kind of give them some information about exactly how the partnership could look moving forward, and just some of the goals that you guys have in mind. So that was one of the recommendations that the council brought. And even also having maybe if a representative from the Greenway Advisory Board couldn't come, maybe just having an executive representative from Parks and Recreation as well could come out and speak.
The other conversation that we had kind of centered around how we can get them involved in your board. We mentioned last week, or I guess last month, we kind of pitched the idea of having one member serve in that function for a year. After talking with the executive board, they had some hesitations on that. Number one being just the kind of without knowing anything about some of the requirements of that, how much time commitment that would be on top of what they're already doing. But I think the bigger thing is they saw it as an opportunity for all of the executive board to kind of learn about what's going on with the Parks, Recreation, and Greenway Advisory Board, at least in this initial year, so that they can kind of make a better decision on how to connect the two bodies moving forward. So as opposed to having one liaison that would serve for the entire year, the executive board would like for their entire board, which is 8 members, to have the opportunity to serve as liaisons with 2 board members, 2 of our executive board members, attending 2 meetings per year, and then kind of rotating them out each month. The way that we would do the rotations is what would be one that, let's say hypothetically that Carmen and I are on the November meeting. We would make sure that one of those people would be on the December meeting, and then they'd have a new person that would kind of filter in. So it may be Kent and Oscar who are doing the December meetings, and then Oscar and Carmen kind of back in January. So there's always somebody that's that's attending 2 consecutive meetings for that consistency standpoint. And then kind of after our session, so Raleigh Youth Council kind of runs, their sessions are going from a school year basis. So in May of 2021, we would work with the outgoing executive board as well as the incoming executive board to recommend any modifications to that structure moving forward. Would it make sense to continue doing it as the entire exec board, or would it make sense once we have a little bit more knowledge of some of the commitments from the executive team or from our executive board, how we may want to structure that post May 2021? And so that's kind of what the young people had to say. That was their ideas around it. I guess if there's any questions, we can answer those as well, or if we're ready just to do the action, that'd be great as well. I think that if we could, as soon as we're given the green light, we can have this process start in November or December, just depending on the timing of that.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any questions? Comments?
I don't have a question. I want to say thank you. I made the initial request to get information about this youth council. So if appropriate, I'd like to move that we accept their recommendation and welcome the 2 young people as soon as possible.
I second, Lindsay.
That was Dr. Love and Lindsay as the second.
Yes.
So let's go for a vote. Does everyone agree to support what has been recommended by the Raleigh Youth Council? All those in favor, raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
I.
See my hand? Okay. Any opposed? Okay, great. Well, sounds like that was unanimously accepted and approved.
Great.
Very good.
And-
Thank you guys so much for the
Thank
input.
y'all.
And Carmen, thank you for your work.
Yeah, thank you.
Jennifer, one point of clarification for Dr. Love's motion, that is 2 per meeting for the 8 for the entire cycle, correct? So that needs to be a point of clarification for the minutes, so that
Okay.
it is noted that it's 2 per meeting for the 8, so that it is for rotation. Because the motion is just stating that it's just 2 individuals and not 2 per meeting. So it's a continuous cycle.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
and can I make a comment along those lines that the board, if there are folks in there who are really interested in having a dedicated role, they should consider attending more board meetings than just the 2 that they rotate into, just because of the time scale on the work that we do. Sometimes takes 3-8 months, even just the naming request that we just approved, that's a 3-month minimum. So to really see and understand the work that happens here, they'll may want a little more exposure.
I think that's a good point. Yeah. Dr. Love, are you okay with amending your motion? Would you like to amend that and say that that it would be 2 people rotating every time?
Yes.
And also 1 person changes per month, is that correct? For the youth council?
Do we need to get that specific, Oscar, or can we just kind of say we accept the Raleigh Youth Council's recommendation?
Okay.
I think as long as you accept it, there will be 2 members attending each meeting.
Yes, the recommendation stated 2 rotating. So yes, I accept that amendment.
Great. And is that seconded?
I second that. Dr.
Okay.
Love.
And can we just again say we're all in favor?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Any opposed? Great. Thanks, everybody. Okay. Very good. And then there was the point that the Raleigh Youth Council had about wanting someone from our board to come and speak to them and tell them a little bit about what we do. Is there anyone who would like to do that? Any volunteers? All right, Dr. Love, thank you. So if you could work directly with Kent and Carmen to just find out when their next meeting is or the next one that you can make, that would be great. Okay, thank you. Very good. Okay, well, moving on, we have a bunch of presentations tonight, so I just want to kind of keep things rolling. The first presentation is from the Office of Equity and Inclusion.
Yes.
I believe that's Dr. Caesar. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So thank you. Yes, next up, we have Dr. Audria Caesar. She's the Executive Director of the City of Raleigh Office of Equity and Inclusion. And so what she's going to be doing this evening is going to be providing an overview of her department, as well as some of the initiatives that they are working on. In addition, we do have members of the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resources Department who are representatives for both the GARE cohort and core team, who are working in collaboration with Dr. Caesar's office and leading the charge on the advancement of her equity work, of her department's equity work. So before Dr. Caesar hand it over to her, I'd like to introduce who our department representatives are for the equity and inclusion efforts. We have Kathy Capps. Kathy, you want to wave? We also have Lisa Ann Utsumi. Lisa. And we have Charles Craig, who's listed as Owen Cass, but that's a mistake. That's Charles Craig. And then we also have Grady Busey. So thank you all for being here. And as I had mentioned, they are working in collaboration with Dr. Caesar's office on all of our racial equity and inclusion efforts. So with that being said, I'd like to hand it over to Dr. Audria Caesar to go ahead and give her overview.
Thank you, Oscar. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Well, good evening, everyone. First of all, I'm excited to see the equity team members on the call today. I always get excited when I see folks because, we've been through a lot over the past year in really pushing this initiative forward and really institutionalizing equity. Our mission is to really embed it within the organization. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how we're going to do that. So here's an overview of all the things that I'm going to discuss. Give you a little bit of the background. So I've been here since January of 2019. And when I came, my mission was to launch an Office of Human Relations. So we did that. And then I'll tell you the story of how we evolved into equity and inclusion. Okay, so back in July 2019 is when we officially launched our Human Relations Office. Now, human relations work aims to help communities to be more harmonious, respectful, and cohesive. But the key element is that it safeguards against discrimination. So we want to focus on promoting human dignity and equal opportunity. So when I started, this was really it. I had 4 boards and 4 commissions. I had a community stakeholder group that was focused on community health. One of the differences between the city of Raleigh and other departments is that we've got our health department with Wake County. And so we still do what I call public health services, but the city doesn't want to own public health services. So we support nonprofits and the county's work through partnerships. And so in doing so, we administer over $500,000 in human services grants. The crux for the office was really focused on the social determinants of health. We recognized early on that we really needed to have this holistic focus. So circumstances in which people are born, grow up in, live in, and work in impact, how they experience Raleigh. And from the research that we've gathered, we realize that there's a narrative out there. And the narrative is that Raleigh ranks among the best places. In 2020, we got the most recession-resistant city of 2020 ranking. And then there's a life expectancy of 80.2 years compared to the national average of 78.8. So what does all of this mean? It means that the perception, when you look at data in totality, is that Raleigh is a great place and we have very few problems. The reality is life expectancy varies based upon where you live. if you look at census tract data, if you look at zip code data, you're going to see that quality of life or life expectancy number fall by at least 7 years. But we don't see that when we look at the data in totality. We know that there's a massive wealth gap that keeps growing. In fact, in April of 2019, the New York Times came in and did a study, and they put out an article that was titled, "The Neighborhood is Mostly Black, the Home Buyers Are Mostly White." And that article shed light on gentrification that's happening right here in Raleigh. The perception from the community is that Raleigh is not working for communities of color. So that in and of itself is a catalyst for us to take a look at ourselves and say, what are we doing? How can we improve? I put this slide up here just to show you the prosperity score ranking for North Carolina. And this data comes from the National Equity Atlas. It shows the state of North Carolina with a ranking of 38, and understanding that the highest score is 78 and the lowest score is 4. But if you look at Raleigh's data, Raleigh's prosperity ranking is actually 63, which is somewhere in here. So again, we look pretty good. But again, when you drill down, certain areas have much lower prosperity ratings. One of the work that we're talking about doing with our economic development and innovation team is really developing a metric for truly measuring prosperity in Raleigh. A lot of these national data sources have county and state data, but they don't do, as I would say, thorough job at looking at municipalities. So that's going to be part of the work that we do going forward. City Council made a request back in August of 2019, and they wanted the city to review, revise, and incorporate equity throughout Raleigh's strategic plan, comp plan, and departmental business plans. So at this point, we had no capacity to do this. Equity was just a thought. But at that point, a few of us got together and decided, meaning the assistant city manager and the city manager, and also the planning department, decided that we need to take advantage of an opportunity that was up and coming. And that was to be a part of the GARE cohort. GARE stands for the Government Alliance on Race and Equity. So we started out with 2 teams, a cohort, which would embark on a year-long training so that we could learn the proper terminology and learn how to appropriately apply a lens of racial equity to our work. And then the core team, which was composed of department heads and other staff who were to champion and assist us in moving this work forward. So at the conclusion of the cohort, we would all become one core team. And CORE is the acronym for City of Raleigh Equity Team. So the folks that were introduced early on, they're part of the core team, and we've been doing a lot of work. Before I get into the work, I do want to take a moment to read the equity statement. It's long, so it's going to be over 2 slides, but I'm going to read it. And I want to make sure that I hit every single piece of it. So Raleigh is committed to establishing and advancing an equitable community for all. Because we know that race is the primary predictor of a person's outcomes across all social indicators and societal systems, the City of Raleigh will prioritize racial equity to dismantle the policies and systems that have created and sustained these inequities. Inequities in our systems and policies are costly and limit positive outcomes and quality of life for all of us. When we achieve racial equity, all people in Raleigh will benefit from a more just, equitable system. Raleigh aspires to be a model for equity and local government. And I want to say that our collaborative equity team, so our core team and our cohort worked together to pull this statement together. And we sent it up to the city manager's office for review, and they reviewed it and put it out. I was very pleased, and it was very timely when the statement came out. Just around the time of the George Floyd killing is when this statement was released. So it was very timely. One of the things I want to point out is that, while most folks are thinking this is reactionary, City of Raleigh has been working on equity initiatives since we started back in August of 2019. So I'd like to say that I'm glad that we are ahead of the curve and we're continuing to do great work. So from human relations, from the core team and cohort, came the Office of Equity and Inclusion. And so what you have in front of you is the org chart. Looks massive. We are a small but mighty team. We have 4 divisions. Our Human Relations Division, which has our Human Relations Commission, the Mayor's Committee for Persons with Disabilities, our newly formed Hispanic and Immigrant Affairs Board, our Police Advisory Board, and our Mayor's Committee for Compassion. So if you recall back in the earlier slides, I started with 4 boards, and you can see I'm up to 7. So apparently there is a demand and a need to address some of these issues. The next office or the next division is civil rights. We enforce the Fair Housing Act. So one of the boards that takes care of that is the Fair Housing Hearing Board. Right now, we're just a board that works in education and advisory capacities, but we want to become a quasi-judicial board. One of the things that is different from every other city in North Carolina, Raleigh is different in fact that it does not have an office that does enforcement of fair housing. Charlotte does, Durham does, Greensboro does, Fayetteville does, but Raleigh does not. So the state of North Carolina has said to us, hey, we're taking a lot of your complaints and inquiries. So as you can see with the outline, we are aspiring to create this fair housing unit that will have some level of enforcement power when it comes to landlord and tenant issues. In the future, we also hope to look at how we work with HR and other groups to deal with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act, Title VII, which is EEO, and then ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act. Community health space is what I mentioned earlier as we work to partner with the community to really push public health services, but without owning that work. So we have a community stakeholder group under our partnership services that has over 77 community groups, nonprofits, and other government organizations that work with us. And we come together quarterly to look at opportunities. We do shared goal setting, and we see how we can apply resources collectively using the collective impact model to really move the needle forward. Wake County does the community health assessment. We have staff that sit on those action planning committees and support the work there as well. And then we've got our inclusion services. One of our newest programs that's coming over from Housing and Neighborhoods is our Minority Women Business Enterprises group. So that focuses on looking at populations that are underserved when it comes to contracting, whether it be for professional services, other services, or construction work. Training and technical assistance is the piece that folks think about most readily when you think about equity inclusion. And that's because we're really focusing on building organizational capacity. When we talked about the GARE cohort, we're training 20 individuals to subsequently go out and train the rest of the organization. So that's the importance of this team. We need folks who I call them master trainers, who are master trainers who understand how to apply a racial equity lens, who understand how to administer organizational assessments related to equity. So that's a lot of the work that we lead and coordinate. I can tell you right now, once we get to in the next slide, you're going to see some of the work that we're doing, and it's awesome. Can't wait to talk about it. We've talked about the core team, and then there's the research, planning, and evaluation segment. This is strictly data. One of the things that we're hoping to accomplish within the next year is the creation of a public-facing dashboard. We're going to identify metrics related to equity. We need to be able to quantify how we're moving the needle forward in terms of racial equity in the city. And so this group is going to be responsible for doing that. And then the very last little box down there is resource groups. Some organizations call them affinity groups, but they're really groups that are just focused on providing support to employees based upon however they identify. You could have an LGBTQ group. You could have a group for African Americans. You can have a group for parents. It really doesn't matter what the topic is. The key is that we provide a supportive resource to staff.
Wow.
So we've got the National Best Practice Model for Equity Work in Government, where it's about normalizing, organizing, and operationalizing racial equity. And this comes from Race Forward and the Government Alliance on Race and Equity. So this is a cycle, and I can tell you right now, the phase that we are in is normalizing. We are just starting to talk about race in the organization, and it's something that is long overdue, but being able to talk about it really gives us the opportunity to start to organize and create this infrastructure where we're ready to make a change. Again, the mission for equity and inclusion is about embedding equity work into everything we do in the city. So we can operationalize all of this by the use of racial equity tools, strategic planning, and having a results focus. So again, going back to the data dashboard, that's going to actually tell us if we're moving forward in the right direction. So our current work, we're currently developing an equity team charter. And the charter is going to solidify what the roles and responsibilities are for equity team members, but also giving some structure to equity teams that exist within departments. There are only a few, I'd say a handful of departments that already have equity teams, but even within those groups, they still need structure and coordination of how they're going to work with the Office of Equity Inclusion and then the overarching equity team. We're just, I would say, halfway through our Can We Talk departmental processing sessions. To date, we've done over 115 of these sessions, and we've touched over 2,000 employees. So we're just halfway there. I know Parks and Recreation, they've had some great sessions, and they're actually planning to do some more sessions with staff. The whole point of this is to really, again, normalize conversations about race and then take the stigma away from talking about this stuff. The reason why we can look at 1960 and say, this looks the same as 2020 is because we aren't talking about this. We aren't prioritizing it, and we're not recognizing the impact of systemic racism on our work and on our community. So we really need to do some work internally before we can go out in the community and really do a good job. Revising the organizational value of diversity. So we've got probably 8 organizational values. And so we're looking, at some point, we'll be looking at all of the values. But right now, the focus is on diversity. Diversity is really old language. I think about the 80s and the 90s when we talk about diversity. Language has really shifted to equity and inclusion. So with diversity, you have a group of diverse people who are at the table, they're in the room, but they may not be contributing. Their ideas may not be heard. So we're trying to change the language to capture this idea of inclusion. And the next thing we're doing is a racial equity tool. This is the first level in an organizational assessment where we select 1 or 2 pilot projects per department, and we identify opportunities to improve. So then we look at our goals and objectives, we look at the data, we look at our levels of community engagement, and then we decide how we want to move forward. In doing this racial equity tool, we could potentially identify some gaps. And when we identify those gaps, they'll go right into our racial equity action plan on areas where we need to improve upon. And then finally, we're working to launch an organization-wide and community equity training effort. I'm going to jump to the next slide to talk a little bit more about the training. In the works, we've been trying to plan the City Council equity training. We've had some difficulty with City Councilor schedules. So we're looking at January for doing the City Council training. And it's going to be recorded for community and boards and commissions. So what my board has said to me is, I think we could use our own equity training. What I'm hearing from a lot of boards is we could use our own equity training. So right now, my office is looking at the feasibility of getting that going. So we'll have more information, I would say next month, on what that would look like. I was hoping to have some information today to share with you all on the training, but it's not quite ready yet. And, if you look at it, we just launched in July, and we've accomplished so much in this space since July of this year with COVID and with everything else. So I'm comfortable if we have to push some things back to January because our plates are full. Now, in terms of city leaders, we all will be doing our REI groundwater training. And REI is the Racial Equity Institute out of Greensboro. And it's a 3-hour introduction. I call it an introductory training to equity. And they just hit you with data that really helps to paint this picture of why this work is important. And then in February 2021, we'll be launching our internal staff training across all departments. One of the things the city manager said is that we need required equity training. So everybody must do it. So who's going to perform that? It's our core team and our cohort. So that's what we've been training to do all of this time, is to be ready to deliver this training. It's not a training that anybody can do. Most people say, well, if you're a trainer, you can do it. Wrong. You have to go through a process of understanding the terminology and understanding how difficult it is for people to talk about this, let alone use it in their day-to-day operations in their work. And that's really our goal. Okay, so at this point, I will take any questions that you all have. One other point I want to mention, because I see Lindsay on here. We've got our social equity book club that we've been doing since January of this year, which is really fun. I mean, you read a variety of books that help you challenge your social norms. Yes. And Lindsay's a part of that. And also Lisa's a part of that, and Kathy's a part of that. So it's really awesome to see a lot of folks here who participate in the work that we're doing in the city.
Great. Thank you so
Dr.
much.
Caesar, and if I can add, I just also did want to point out that our cohort and our core team of Grady, Lisa, Kathy, and Charles, they have really led the charge for the department. I mean, they have their jobs to do, their regular jobs that they were hired to do, but they've really taken on the initiative. They've grabbed the bulls by the horn and have really championed the initiative for our department. They have been hosting and moderating the Can We Talk sessions within the department, which have been great, well received, well attended, open, honest communication, very emotional communication, very emotional talks that we've had during the sessions. And so I wanted to really, thank them for all the hard work they have been doing to advance this cause. And also, in addition, they've been working on the racial equity tool survey for our department to kind of really give us a snapshot of our department, and it is very eye-opening for us. And so I thank them for that, and all the trainings that they are going to be doing for our internal staff members, including building a resource library that's available for all of Park and Recreation staff to be able to go in any time, look at articles, books, videos, different things that can really open and educate our staff. So I just want to really thank you for the leadership, and also to our team members who have really done an awesome job educating all of us and helping us move forward. So thank you all.
Yeah. Dr. C, this is Kendall. I'm excited. Lindsay spoke highly of you about the work that you're doing. I am big, first and foremost, on racial equity, and the board knows that. I think that groundwater is important. I've led that. I've been through REI, Racial Equity Institute, about 15 times, and did phase 2 about 3 times. Yeah. I'm glad you've done this, but I think vocabulary is important. Like when we use the word minority, I think we got to be careful. I'm not a less than person, right? The root word of minority is less than. It's less. I'm not a less than person, right? And that's being a person of color. And so I'm excited that you're going to push Oscar and his staff. I'm holding my organization feet to the fire because now we're talking about anti-racist organization, and we got to be careful what that really means. And then we look at our leadership across the board. How do we hold our counterparts with privilege accountable? So I'm excited. If Lindsay, let me say this, and I'll be honest with you. If Lindsay believes in you, I support Lindsay, and I believe in her that she supports you. But I tell you what I will do. I will hold you accountable to this work because I'm passionate about this work. Because at the end of the day, the Kool-Aid word is really racial equity. Everybody uses the word racial equity and really don't know what it really means. It's like the Y. I've been with the Y for 23 years, and we're saying that we're an anti-racist organization. Well, you know what? When you ain't been an organization open to black folks, white women or black women, how are you an anti-racist organization? So I got to hold, and I've been there 23 years, so I got to hold that organization accountable. And guess what, Dr. Caesar? I grew up on Raleigh Parks and Rec in 1970, so I'm going to hold that accountable too. So I appreciate the work that you're doing.
Thank you. And yes, hold us accountable because that's the only way that we're going to move forward.
I want to say that I appreciate what you're doing. I'm 73 years old. I've been through this kind of stuff a long time before. You mentioned the 60s. Been there, done that, but it's time to do it again. Thank you very much.
Any other comments? Lindsay, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I was thrilled to see that you were here, Dr. Caesar. And as she mentioned, I've been joining their social equity book clubs, and I hope that those will continue. And I'm sure that as they would continue, they would evolve. This has been my conflict. That's why I haven't been at the other ones. But, so I've been at some of them, but not all of them, because then I'm on the Parks Board. But some of the things you mentioned, like people's hesitancy or discomfort in talking about things. So for lack of a better phrase here, it needs to be required to help people see and understand things that they don't know, they don't see and understand. And there's also something I've noticed that some people have blinders on to think that it's only anti-Blackness or anti-racist oppression in this world, but really we talk about intersectionality, and there's so many different levels, layers of oppression. So in addition to the Parks Board, I serve on a national board that works on poverty solutions. And so last week I was challenging them and bringing up, well, the city of Raleigh has a social equity book club, and you need to think beyond just the lens of anti-Blackness, anti-racist. Think about LGBTQ, think about gender, think about colonialism, think about all the different levels of poverty and education and people's experiences, lived experiences, or things they're unaware of. And there are leaders at all levels, but there are local leaders who I know who even don't understand implicit bias. And that really deeply concerns me. It upsets me about the impact that it has on people's experiences. I recognize my own privilege as a white person, but there are other folks whose lives are not the same experiences, and that just tears at my heart. So we really need to ensure that, okay, folks are being introduced to this, whether they are seeking it or not, because they don't know that they need it. And I know that I need it, and I'm still seeking it because I'm going to keep growing for the rest of my life. And that has to be intentional learning and growth. And so I was so excited to see that you're on the agenda. And we did talk in August about exploring racial equity education, even for our own board. But anyways, thank you, and wanted to sing your praises and share those thoughts. So thank you very much for everything you're doing.
Thank you, Lindsay, for participating. Appreciate that.
Beverly, go ahead. Yeah.
Thank you. Dr. Caesar, thank you. That was an excellent presentation. And institutionally, we all, and collectively and individually, we all have a long ways to go on this issue. And I look forward to our board having a more in-depth conversation, but knowing about what you're doing at the citywide level is awesome. One thing I wanted to share with you that you may not have heard about, that the Parks department is doing that I think is really important, and that is resilience and ACE training, adverse childhood experiences. That's how I come at this issue. And I served on the county's task force on that, and I was so proud. I don't even think I was on the Parks Board at the time when Ken Hessler came and talked about the kinds of training about toxic stress and other challenges that children face. Because if we're going to really address this issue, we have to address equity at the very beginning of a child's life, and have them know that they can overcome circumstances and create opportunities. So just want you to be sure you are aware of that part, because I was so impressed with that activity of the Parks Department.
And Beverly, you will be excited to know that Kathy and I have had a conversation. We also do screenings of resilience, and we also are doing work with our Substance Use Advisory Commission. So we're taking a mental health focus. So we have a great opportunity to collaborate with you all in the future.
Great.
I would just like to say thank you for the work you're doing, because it's work. It's hard work. It's long work. And it's challenging work. So I'm glad you've got us started, if I can say that. And it's work that I look forward to undertaking, actually. We're more than ready. We've been ready for decades.
Good, thank you.
Hundreds.
Does anyone else have anything that they'd like to add? I wish Dexter was here, because he was the one that really brought this agenda item up to get a presentation and more information. But we'll be sure that he gets a hold of your presentation, that he sees that. And I guess the next steps would be, just kind of for us to continue to watch what you're doing, and then hopefully in January we'll see the presentation and the work that's done with council, and we will be receiving some sort of training. Is that right?
That is correct. We're working on what we're going to do specifically for boards and commissions. We really wanted to kick this off in October, November timeframe, but that just wasn't doable for council. So I'll look forward to some communications from us in the future.
Great. Thank you so much. Yeah. Anyone else? Okay. I don't want to cut anybody off. I'm trying to scan all the little screens here. Great. Thank you so much for coming out tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Caesar.
I think that Oscar has some big news to announce, a couple new members that we neglected to mention earlier, and we just want to be sure to introduce them before we go too much further along here.
Yes, sorry about that. We were so excited to jump into to tonight's meeting. We failed to recognize our two newest members of the Park Recreation and Greenway Advisory Board. First up, we do have Christina Jones. Christina, do you want to go ahead and wave to everybody? I don't know if you all want to go ahead and just give a little, 3-sentence background about yourself. Tell the rest of the board anything about yourself. I think you're muted. There you go.
Can you hear me? I'm so sorry.
Yes.
My internet was going in and out. I am so sorry. Thank you guys so much. I'm so excited after that last presentation to be a part of the board and learn everything I can from you guys. It was a great orientation and I'm super pumped. So it was nice to meet everybody and I can't wait to speak to you all further.
All right. Welcome aboard, Christina. And then next we have Rashawn King. Rashawn, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hello, everybody. I'm just excited to be here. Happy to be on board with the Parks Recreation of Greenway Advisory Board. I'm just thankful to be a part of it. And once again, that presentation was phenomenal that Dr. Caesar just presented, and I'm just here to learn and share my knowledge as well. So thank you.
Okay. We welcome you both and thank you for your service to the Park Board and to the community, and look forward to working with you all. So welcome.
Yep. Welcome to both of you. And I'm happy to note to the board that you know, as you all know, as we worked through the bond earlier in the year, and we were all realizing that we just didn't have a lot of physical representation in the Northwest and in the Southwest regions of the city, that both Rashawn and Christina are helping to represent those areas of the city. So that's really nice to help us be more inclusive and really, you know, show more representation. So welcome to both of you, though, for other reasons as well. Great. Well, moving right along, we have another presentation. This is about the Park Maintenance Division, Wildlife Habitat Inventory and Planning.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to introduce Charles Craig. He's one of our park maintenance superintendents. He's not Owen Cass, he's Charles Craig. Just want to go ahead and reiterate that. And Charles is going to be leading off a presentation from the Park Maintenance Division on their wildlife habitat inventory and planning efforts, as well as some of the conservation efforts they're also undertaking. So there's going to be multiple staff that are going to be doing various segments of the presentation. So once Charles introduces and hands it off, then we'll go ahead and have each staff member briefly introduce himself before they take on their section of the presentation. So Charles, you want to go ahead and kick us off?
Yes, we're getting the camera ready. There we go. Let's see. Give me 1 second. So we are together, and hello once again to the chair and to the new members. Thank you for your service. Just give us 1 second, and we're going to have this ready. It's showing the notes. Give me 1 second. We are working off of 2 screens, so okay. No. It's coming, ladies and gentlemen. I apologize. We're having some technical difficulties. Give me 1 second. Owen, take it off share screen, please, and just put it on here. Thank you. Drag it over.
There you go.
Woo! Thank you so much. Thank you for your patience. I apologize for that, but it happens over time, and we will be resilient and move on. So once again, thank you so much to the chair and the new park board members and the board members as a whole. I'm very excited to be able to share with you on today, along with our wonderful team. We have a great team that's going to be presenting on today. I want to introduce myself. My name is Silas Charles Craig III. You can call me Charles, and I am one of your park superintendents for the Parks Division. And I'm very, very thankful to be in this role. And we have a wonderful team that love serving our city. Now, let's talk about what we're going to present on today. As stewards of Raleigh Parks and Trail System, our Parks Division, we deliver and we pride ourselves on trying to deliver high quality maintenance for exceptional experiences for all of our park users. We have multiple strategies for maintaining, protecting, and enhancing habitats for wildlife and pollinators. So today we're going to share only 5 key points, 5 key strategies on how we sustain a healthy city. These 5 key points are as follows. Number 1, we're going to talk about our Parks Division mission and partnership with the Resource Division. Number 2, we're going to talk about volunteers and what role volunteers play and building a stronger and stronger future. Number 3, we're going to talk about technology and invasive species management, followed by number 4, pollinators and wildflower program, and we will end with next steps. So let's get started. To get started and talk about our parks mission, we adopted this beautiful book. This book is called Always Growing by Jones Laughlin. It's a great book, and within this book, we understand that we are always growing. So our mission within parks is never stop growing. Never stop growing. How do we accomplish never stop growing? Well, we look at the past in order to build a stronger and a greater future. We understand that science have changed over time with cutting edge new technology and cutting edge research, and we want to be a leading city. We want to be able to be innovative. We want to stay ahead of the curve. We want other cities to look at us and say, what are y'all doing? We want to do the same thing. And so in order to do that, in order to accomplish our mission to never stop growing, we attend conferences, we go to seminars and trainings, we participate in workshops and classes, and now we're doing more online classes now that things are available virtually. And we're very, very happy to never stop growing. One of the quotes within Always Growing, the book, it says, and this is one of my favorite quotes, it says, "You are always a gardener. What grows and how it grows it's up to you." And we can look at that in many ways, but I want to look at it as building a stronger relationship. We understand that we are stronger together, and in order to do that, we have an awesome relationship with our resource division and our nature preserve team. Just to kind of let you know, they set the natural resource management plan, and we within our parks division and volunteer services, we assist in the implementation. So we serve in a capacity of how can we help? What can we do to help move the city forward? What can we do to help all of us accomplish the goals at hand? So we serve in a how can we help capacity, and we always do it with a smile. Next thing I really want to touch on, we are a beautiful family. Our parks division, we have dedicated staff. We're very experienced, we're trained, we're passionate, we have credentials. We love what we do. We love serving the city of Raleigh, and it's a passion of ours. And now what I would like to do, I would like to transition, and now I'm going to transition into point number 2. Just a reminder, we have multiple strategies on maintaining, protecting, and enhancing habitat for wildlife and pollinators. But the next voice you will hear, this next speaker that you will hear, is none other than Ms. Lee Bragaza. She will share with you things that we're doing with volunteers and things that we're doing to increase participation and have a stronger future. Ms. Lee Bragaza.
All right, hi. My name is Owen Cass, and I'm going to be talking about some of our stewardship opportunities coming up. We're all sharing a computer, so we're all Owen today. So some of our stewardship volunteer opportunities include such amazing episodic and ongoing opportunities, such as our Habitat Heroes for our more trained volunteer invasive removals, and our brand new Find It Fridays, which we're developing with our natural resources staff. We install pollinator gardens, check nest boxes, plant annuals and trees. We mulch, we build trails, we do restoration. There's all kinds of engaging outreach to help our patrons interact in a meaningful way. Partnerships are an important part of what we do, meeting our goals and fulfilling our mission by providing opportunities for all members of the community and blending programming and volunteering to engage and educate. Which leads us to our newest partnership, the Youth Conservation Corps North Carolina. We were thrilled to be able to partner with Conservation Corps to hire 10 local youths for 4 weeks this summer during COVID to give them exposure to careers in conservation. Educating the next generation prepares our youth to make measured decisions and develop conservation-based values. They worked primarily in the Walnut Creek watershed, and they got a diverse experience in every aspect of sustainably maintaining public grounds for the future. And also built into their schedule were many mentor sessions with local experts who spoke about their experiences, education, and work in conservation. And every day started with some team building and some stretches, which was hilarious to me. And we were teaching the next generation the value of stewardship. Here they are removing invasive trees along the Walnut Creek Greenway, adding vibrant accents to Anderson Point's playground to create a more inviting space for the public to enjoy. Learning from leading ornithologists and working with Greenway staff to build and install nuthatch boxes at Shelley Lake. Doing an in-depth garden tour, and then working in the perennial beds at Fred Fletcher Park. Learning the many facets of habitat management. Working with some NC State ornithology grad students during Black Birders Week to learn about bird banding. And they also got to do a walk in the woods with an expert on bird calls and bird behavior. And I've always said that getting to know your neighbors helps to build a stronger community. Gaining experience interacting with wildlife and losing the fear of the unknown. I'm proud to say that 9 out of the 10 youths were not afraid of bugs after 4 weeks. For those of you who don't know, that's quite an accomplishment. They learned the importance of water quality while sampling for macroinvertebrates with our stormwater engineers. They got great exposure to experts that gave the team opportunities to build professional contacts into the future. They got professional tips on tree climbing from our urban forestry, which helped them develop confidence and an appreciation for the skill that's involved in that work. Under the guidance of some local artists, they collected trash at the Wetland Center to build sculptures that promote safe, healthy wildlife habitat. If you're curious, you can see these sculptures on Peterson Street, right across from the Wetland Center. And because we had so many wonderful people come and speak and share with us, we asked them to write thank you notes to all of those mentors and to help teach them the importance of networking. And you might note, Marcia was one of the great people who came to share with us. Thank you, Marcia. Here is your next generation of nature's defenders. These young people now have the knowledge, skills to share their experience, educate others, and affect positive change. And I will now pass it on to the real Owen Cass.
Thank you, Lee. Good evening. I am Owen Cass, the Greenway Vegetation Management Supervisor, and I'm glad that we were able to get all our technical difficulties out on the front end. So I want to thank you for the opportunity to share with you the exciting work that we are performing with regard to natural resources. We are a small specialized crew. We're trained and passionate professionals, and we are not able to do it alone. We have the support of other maintenance crews, volunteer services, natural resources, the invasive species program, urban forestry, the horticulture team, the GIS team, the marketing team, the North Carolina Museum of Art, and the North Carolina State University. Really, we do two things. We keep our greenways accessible, safe, aesthetically pleasing, and we protect the natural resources on the greenways for future generations. Sorry, skipping ahead. So we're facing ecological challenges on our greenways. We have the invasive emerald ash borer beetle, which has killed thousands of trees in Raleigh. And invasive plants are killing native trees, disrupting ecosystem function, and threatening the future of our forests. But we recognize we're in a position to protect and improve these critical corridors for both humans and wildlife alike, and we take that opportunity to heart. It's our passion that drives our desire to improve, adapt, and be more effective stewards of natural resources. To face these challenges, we rely on sound science, an understanding of natural processes, proven technologies, and the support of our PRCR community. So I'm going to review the steps of our strategy to managing invasive plants on the Greenway. So to put our goals simply, we want two things. We want healthy forests for patrons to revel in, while also providing robust ecosystem services and abundant wildlife habitat. First, we quantified and qualified the extent of the invasive plant problem. Plant community surveys can be extremely time-consuming and tedious, so we leveraged the new ArcGIS Quick Capture app to rapidly survey 16 out of the 50 non-native species along our immediate Greenway corridors. Now, this app was only released in June 2019 and was custom built for us by the City of Raleigh GIS team. And this initial survey covered about 20% of the 3,900 acres on our greenways. So we identified 47 miles of privet infestation. This shade-tolerant invasive shrub inhibits forest regeneration, outcompetes native shrubs and herbaceous plants, and reduces ecosystem diversity. You'll see here there's a small native buckeye being smothered by the privet. 3,138 invasive trees ranging in size from saplings to full-grown mature trees were mapped. So we can make room for native plants just by removing the invasive trees that are competing for light, water, and nutrients and giving the native plants that opportunity to grow. And we know that native woody plants support far more species of butterflies and moths and so much more wildlife than non-natives. This zebra swallowtail shown here, its only host plant is the pawpaw tree, which fortunately grows on our greenways. So I had to sneak in that pretty butterfly before moving on to non-native vines. Kudzu, wisteria, porcelainberry, English ivy, they're a growing problem on our greenways. They smother and kill entire native plant communities, giving the opportunity for invasive trees and shrubs to proliferate. We identified 43 individual infestations of kudzu or wisteria, totaling over 15 acres. Some are large, like this population of Walnut Creek Trail, but most are still in the small incipient stage, which if left unmanaged will grow to be acres in size. So now we have to prioritize, and simply we prioritize species by taking a top-down approach by focusing on the greatest threat to the forest first. So kudzu and wisteria, they're on the very top of that list. But we also consider locations with invasive plants that compromise human health and safety, such as this sightline being blocked here on Reedy Creek Trail. That privet was selectively removed, and with help from Lee Bergassa, we left the native plants on site. We use a triage approach on the landscape scale, so healthy forests are maintained through early detection and rapid response to new invasions. On the left is that pawpaw patch where you can find the zebra swallowtails on the Neuse River Trail. And established forests facing early invasions, such as House Creek Trail, can be rescued and quickly restored to their former glory. The most challenging and most often left on the back burner is the restoration of degraded forests. The success has been realized at the Walnut Creek Wetland Center and Chavis Park through the combined efforts of Lee Bergassa, Stacy Hagwoods, parks crews, so many others, and many, many, many volunteers. These results are inspiring and give us hope that even our most degraded areas on the Greenway can be restored. So we have to consider all available options in our toolkit. Each has its advantages and disadvantages in terms of its effect against target weeds, impacts on non-target plants and animals, safety, and cost. More often than not, a combination of techniques are required. If the slide doesn't skip forward on me, I want to point out that sign in the foreground there. The Greenway crew themselves requested this sign to communicate the purpose of their work in the field. Go back so you get a chance to look at it. We developed this sign with our marketing team, and so far it's proven effective by facilitating meaningful conversations and understanding between the crew and the public. So next, we take all the information gathered in the previous steps. We review our guiding documents and prescribe an action plan that integrates with our other core responsibilities. We often rely on volunteer services team to enlist the help of the local community, which also provides an excellent opportunity for hands-on experience to learn about natural resource management. And finally, we have to reflect, we have to self-critique what works, what doesn't work, and where we can improve. We have to relentlessly improve our approach and leverage techniques and technologies to make this lean team of dedicated individuals as effective as possible in achieving our goals. So that's a brief overview of invasive vegetation management. Now we'll turn to a more enjoyable topic, where in managing our open spaces, we're taking a similar approach with our Greenway wildflower program. Still in its infancy, we're developing multiple practices that will promote flowering plants for pollinators and people alike to enjoy. So we're sowing annual flower plots in high traffic locations utilizing sustainable agriculture techniques. This year we had great success with sunflowers. They're on Walnut Creek Trail by Garner Road. And we're trialing deer-resistant annual flowers such as zinnias and cosmos. Those cosmos right now are in full flower, even with deer around. We've been augmenting our open areas by sowing and planting native wildflowers such as Coreopsis, Bidens, and Rudbeckia into annually mowed areas where these flowers, they didn't occur, but the flowers are suitable for that site. Where I think the greatest opportunity lies is in the conservation of the naturally occurring communities of wildflowers. Through intentional maintenance, we can encourage these true wildflowers to expand their range and put on even more dazzling displays of color. The expert knowledge of plant identification and life history from our in-house experts such as Gretchen Seders proven valuable in achieving this goal. The continued education of staff and public is also a critical component of this conservation. We have to build understanding of why we are changing management techniques, why we are leaving areas unmown or mowing at different times, and these new signs that are in the works here on the right, that's going to be used to help communicate that with the public. We're also collecting seeds from native plants on the greenways, growing them in our city's greenhouse and reintroducing them as restoration or augmentation planting to protect and expand our native populations. And finally, at the Thornton Road Trailhead, we're actively restoring an 8-acre agricultural field into a diverse and beautiful native meadow. We sowed 50 pounds of a native pollinator mix in 2 acres of the meadow last winter. And Sean Goff in Natural Resources, he's been key in helping us to develop a management plan that uses sustainable techniques while meeting our ecological goals. So thank you so much for your time. It's a big topic. I'd be happy to talk more. But now I'm honored to introduce our city horticulturalist, Gretchen Seders. She's been an invaluable mentor, consultant, and teacher for myself, the department, and beyond. She shows us all the innate value and personality of all plants and has helped to shift our paradigm from parks maintenance to parks stewardship. Thank you.
So what do I do to, okay.
There's a big area you can click.
So I'm the real Owen Cass. So tonight I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the pollinator gardens we have in the city of Raleigh. So I think that Raleigh is a city of spectacular natural beauty, and integrating that natural beauty throughout the cityscape with green areas, greenways, gardens, trees, and plant accentuated parks makes Raleigh a unique place to live. Landscapes are living things. Oop, what happened? Okay, landscapes are living things and are constantly evolving. Wildlife plays an important role in that evolution, while also providing the entertainment in our green spaces. And yes, that's a fresh patched monarch on that woman's nose as she sat in the park. So I see our parks and greenways as safe havens and corridors for wildlife. This plays an important role in what drives our plant selections when designing our park landscapes. As housing and urban development continue to grow in Raleigh, we are disturbing natural areas and creating habitat fragmentation. This is hard on small creatures and opens spaces for invasives to move into. Our focus is to remove those invasives and plant a more diverse selection of native plants that supports the wildlife in our cities. Creating pollinator gardens in urban areas. This is in front of the convention center downtown. Stunning, stunning garden, I think. This also is in downtown. This is Nash Square, where they've created a woodland garden in that park. So our new director, Oscar, saw all the pollinator gardens in our parks and said, you've got to get these sites monarch habitat certified. So this year we joined with hundreds of other cities under the Monarch Watch program. This program is designed to help rescue the declining population of monarch butterflies. Under this program, we have certified 8 park locations as certified monarch way stations. We plan to continue getting park and greenway locations certified. Milkweed, or Asclepias, is the only plant that supports the entire life cycle of the monarch butterfly, and it has been devastated by development. To become a certified site, you must provide milkweed, nectar sources, and the shelter that is needed to sustain the monarch butterfly population as they migrate through North America to their home in Mexico. Here are 3 of our local native Asclepias plants, and then 2 of, it's an annual tropical Asclepias that we also use in the parks. We're trying to provide nectar and shelter. So with posting these signs in our parks, they're way station signs, they provide a great opportunity to educate the public about the importance of monarchs and other pollinators and how important they are in our environment. When the children at Sassafras Playground saw the caterpillars on the plants, it was a perfect hands-on teaching opportunity. We also know that native trees are our greatest source of host food for a variety of Lepidoptera. They are the meat and potatoes of pollinator diets. You can see how important one plant species can be for supporting biodiversity. So being the city of oaks is a great advantage. Oaks support over 500 different Lepidoptera. Other ways we enhance diversity in our parks, Other ways we enhance diversity in our parks is by planting mixed borders. Wildflower meadows with diverse plant species that can continue to bloom throughout the season. These gardens attract a wide variety of pollinators and provide nectar and important shelter habitats in places that traditionally have been mowed. Also, by mimicking nature and planting in layers, we get the added benefit of reducing bare soil and inhibiting weeds. The city of Raleigh is also very lucky to be able to collaborate with local botanical gardens, nurseries, and citizens to collect native local seeds to grow in our greenhouses, and then reintroduce those native species back into our parks. This also supports plant diversity. These are not genetically engineered plants. We also do not use neonicotinoids or growth regulators in our plant production. On the left is a beautiful little fleabane that we found growing on the roadside at Buffalo Road, and we were able to propagate that plant and then bring it into other parks. So the stewardship of our parks and green spaces is very important to our city staff. We are committed to creating a beautiful, sustainable park system to be enjoyed for generations to come. Thank you. Now will the real Owen Cass step forward, please?
All right. I want to wrap up with some next steps, and I also want to say thank you to our parks team. Excellent job. I thought you did a great job. But let's move on. As we look at next steps and what next steps will look like, I want to share with you another quote from Always Growing the book. As you can tell, we are dedicated to never stop growing. This quote it says, it says, a plant will only grow as fast as its limiting factor. So what does that mean? That means that our goal within Parks Division, our goal is to do a better job telling our story. We're doing some great things within the city, and we want to be able to share it with the world. Our goal is to increase our pollinator and wildflower program and Marnart Way Station initiative. Our goal is to add more technology. We want to be cutting edge. We want everyone to come to us and learn from us as a leading city. We want to work with volunteers safely. We want to ensure that our volunteers feel safe. They know that we're taking all the necessary precautions due to the climate of our country right now with the coronavirus. We also want to keep our greenways healthy in a beautiful, healthy city. In order to do all those things, this is just 5 key strategies that we shared on today. But we have multiple strategies for maintaining, protecting, and enhancing our habitat for wildlife and pollinators. I want to thank you so much for the opportunity to be able to share with you on today. We are delighted to be here, thankful to be here, and we're happy to come back if the opportunity presents itself. So thank you so much. At this time, I want to take any questions from our team.
Thank you all so much for coming out. That was a wonderful presentation. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Chris, Dylan.
Thank you. I used to work at the North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission, and Oscar, the Texas model is what most states go for. They have Texas Wildlife and Parks. When you were there, did you partner with the state organization much? And do you see a partnership with the North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission? Because they have a ton of cash right now from all the gun sales, and they're looking to spend it.
Well, yeah, in Texas, we did a lot of work with the Texas. The gun sales money didn't really go over there. Kind of went towards funding, maybe development of local parks. But if that's an opportunity here in North Carolina, we can definitely look into it. And I appreciate that suggestion. Yes.
Well, I will send you contacts at the Wildlife Resource Commission, because right now they have a flood of money. And if there's any way, sorry, my dinner's ready. If there's any way that they can spend it in urban areas and getting women and diversity into their programs, they are very enthusiastic to do that. So I'll definitely connect you with those people.
Great. We can definitely use it for continuing our conservation purposes, as well as probably expanding on our Youth Conservation Corps program that we just did this past summer. So yes, definitely. So send me that information. We can definitely put it to good use.
Thank you.
Great. Marcia?
I had a conversation with a friend yesterday who was yelling at me over the phone about nobody takes care of the wild animals. And I kept my cool, but it was hard to listen to somebody say that. I said, I have to tell you, there are people that are paying attention to that. So I feel so vindicated. Thank you so much for what you're doing for the wild areas in our city. We don't ever want to be too cityfied.
I personally am thrilled to hear the work about invasives, pollinator gardens, and the lack of chemical control, and just keep it up. Keep it up.
Thank you.
Beverly, want to add something?
Yeah, thank you. And I previously was on the Environmental Advisory Board, and Gretchen had presented there and just does an awesome job as a resource for this city, and all the rest of the staff that had presented tonight. I'm so impressed. And I wanted to tell you, Charles, that you mentioned that the workers had asked for those signs about when they're dealing with the invasive, I think it was you, can't remember now who said it, but when they're dealing with the invasive species. And it really does, I have seen those signs when I've been on the Greenway, and it's really helpful to see that as you're going by and understand what the city, in fact, if anything, Oscar's heard me say this, we need more of those signs. We need a more permanent, not just the little political size signs, but big ones explaining the kinds of information that you shared with us tonight, so that people, every time they go by, are further educated, as Marcia was saying, so that that we can move our city forward and get more public buy-in on these important issues.
Yes, definitely. Thank you.
Great.
All right.
Anybody else have any comments or thoughts? One question I had, Charles, was regarding a couple times I heard you bring up technology. I was wondering how you're using technology specifically in this, and sorry if I missed that.
Oh yeah, that's a great question. I'm actually going to let the real Owen Cass kind of share a couple things because he is using technology a lot. We all are, but he can definitely speak on those aspects. Give me 1 second.
You mentioned the plant ID.
Yeah,
And our naturalist.
yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, technology is really woven throughout what we do. So in terms of applications, we have plant identification apps to help our field workers in the field. We have iNaturalist, and I talked a bit about the Quick Capture app, which is pretty remarkable to be able to leverage that and accomplish our surveying and mapping goals with very minimal manpower.
Great, thank you.
And that's a utilization of the GIS program and system.
Yeah, yeah, Mike Gudikins, who's on here right now, he's the one who developed that app for us.
Awesome. Great. Well, thank you all. Really appreciate the presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah, well done.
Thank you. Yeah, we definitely have a great group of dedicated park maintenance professionals that are really subject matter experts in a lot of what they do. So kudos to the presentation team. They did a great job. Transitioning, we kind of also have a similar presentation now. Our natural resources program, which as Charles had mentioned earlier, works hand in hand with our park maintenance group and our natural areas, is going to provide a presentation now. So our natural resources superintendent, Brian Smith, is going to kick us off on giving a presentation on the wild spaces in parks and some of the program and conservation efforts that they are doing within that division. And in addition, like the previous presentation, there will be multiple speakers. And so Brian's going to kick it off, and then he will go ahead and introduce new speakers as they provide an overview of their specialized areas within the division.
Thank you very much, Oscar. Can folks see my screen?
Yes.
Wonderful. Well, we will go ahead and get started. Pleased to be here and really appreciate the time. And it's so great to follow the colleagues that we work very closely with in the Parks Division. They really set us up well to work through the slides that we're going to share with you. And not unlike what one of the Owen Casses did in the last presentation, we're going to start off with and structure our presentation essentially to our mission. And I'll tell you a little bit more about how we came up with the mission, how it relates to the overall mission, both of the city and in the department, give you some of the overview and background in that. And then we're going to talk through the different pieces of it, give you some examples and follow through the education we do in programming, the experiences that we offer, a bit on the conservation side of what we're doing, and where we're going here in the future as well. That's what we get over the next few slides here. And for those of you who may not know where the sites are that we're talking about, the Natural Resources Program itself section is responsible for the sites that you see here in the middle. We have a series of nature preserves up here, North 540, Anna Louise Wilkerson, Durant Nature Preserve, and Horseshoe Farm Nature Preserve. And then we also have some more activated outdoor recreation sites, and that's sort of how we break up the org chart as well. We have Forest Ridge Park here, and then Lake Johnson and Lake Wheeler. And finally, we have the Walnut Creek Wetland Center, which is sort of housed with the nature preserves and focus more on the nature education. And there's a variety of experiences offered at each one of these sites and across the city for people to experience where they are. And as you can see here, there's a big variety of things that we've got and size of sites. So this is some of the larger properties that we have in the system. And one of the more recent ones to open up at Forest Bridge on Falls Lake is almost 600 acres. So we've got a lot of trail up there, a lot of shoreline along Falls Lake. And of course, the lake properties at Lake Wheeler and Lake Johnson both have water and land as well as trail. And you can see on down the list that most of these sites have some component of water on them, as well as the size of the land we've got and the trails that people experience. And how did we get to that structure? I guess would say that I've been 20 years as a bureaucrat at this point, and some people have said that, I think Charles mentioned certifications. I've had people say that I'm a certified process weenie, and I'll take that moniker. And one of the things that we're proud of is not just what we're doing, but how we're doing it. And I'll give you a little bit of that overview. That the section that we're in right now in natural resources started in 2014. So we're still a bit new in bureaucratic time, and we've changed quite a bit just from 2014 to 2020. So this is more of an internal slide that you don't need to read all of the stuff that's on it. The point of the slide and the reason of sharing it is from 2014 to 2020, as Dr. Caesar was saying, in a short period of time, bureaucratically speaking, there's been a ton that's been accomplished and a lot of change that has gone on in that time, and opening new buildings, having bond projects going on that resulted in new positions, having retirements happen, which resulted in change and movement. And we've had some opportunity to really take a hard look at the org chart, how we structured it, and how we wanted to move it forward as we looked at what the need of our patrons and community was. So the way that we've done that is essentially looked at the org chart and tried to figure out, all right, what do we need as the roots of this group to really set us up to serve the patrons as well as we can. So we have looked at the skill sets that we needed. We've had opportunities to hire. We've brought on people, two of whom you're going to hear from here in a second, who have got very deep skill sets, lots of experience, both in education and in their career experience that they bring to the table to help us deliver what we're delivering. So as Charles was saying in the Review and Parks Division, we get to work directly with them and learn from their expertise and share ours with them and have a very great relationship back and forth. And we're doing that very strategically. And we set up, as I mentioned, we have two different program areas within the natural resources section. One being our nature preserves side of the house, the other being our outdoor recreation side of the house. And we've begun to manage the section as sort of a leadership team approach, and also took all of the existing guiding documents and boiled those down, took the elements of them that made that were relevant, most relevant to us as a section, and we made the strategic plan that we're now working from, and that's where our mission came from. And we turn that into our annual working plan. So everything we're doing is very intentional, very deliberate, deliver on the types of things the public has asked us to deliver on. And we're proud of the way that we're approaching that. And it's paying off. We're doing a lot of really good work at this point. And here's sort of a synopsis of it. And that mission, again, is at the top. We're connecting people and nature through experiences, education, conservation. Those are the three fundamental things that we're doing. So we manage and protect the land that I showed you, and that land and water that we saw on the table a few minutes ago. We're educating and interpreting. So 35,000 some odd program attendees in a year over about 1,600 programs, and that serves from families to kids, adults, and peers, and all in that is providing also the access to the sites that you look at. 7 sites with 25 miles of hiking trails. We're realizing now as we get some additional information from Greenway that this estimate of about 600,000 visitors annually is probably pretty well undershooting what we have. It's actually going to be quite a bit higher than that. We realized just the Greenway around Lake Johnson, with a new counter that's been out there for the last couple of years, recorded 580,000 people just around the Greenway at Lake Johnson. So that's an incredible number, and a lot of people that are coming just to enjoy the outside. And how do we do that? well, we wouldn't be able to do it without the folks that just presented before us. We've got staff, assistant managers, and managers at each one of our sites, as well as 2 program managers and 2 program directors that also have almost 200 part-time staff that they're working with throughout a year. Many of those seasonal, but as they mentioned in the previous presentation, there's a tremendous amount of volunteer support that ends up getting to some of those beautiful pictures that you saw in the previous presentation. See some of as we go through the types of things that we're working on in our section here. Hand over next to Christy Moyer, who has come on as our Nature Preserves Program Director. And she's going to give you a little bit more detail on some of the areas that I was just touching on briefly in our education and program.
Thank you so much, Brian. As he mentioned, my name is Christy Moyer, and I'm the Nature Preserves Program Director, and I'm so excited to be here with you tonight, and thank you for the opportunity. I am going to be speaking about the education aspect of those 3 pieces, and how our programming meets the goals of the guiding documents, the city's guiding documents, and how that connects to the wildlife habitat enhancement that our colleagues spoke about. So while the guiding documents are filled with language that speaks to us, we've pulled out a few of the goals within the system plan that are at the heart of why, how, and what we do to highlight this evening. Throughout the city's guiding documents, you'll find environmental education sprinkled throughout. But what is environmental education? Broadly, it's understood to be education about, in, and for the environment. And if you were to read the globally established goals of environmental education, you would see how closely they parallel what you see up on the screen this for the city of Raleigh. And that is to develop a world population that is aware of and cares about the environment and its associated problems, and which also has the knowledge, skills, attitudes, motivations, and commitment to work individually as well as collectively towards solutions of current problems, as well as helping to prevent new ones. Thank you, Brian. So we cannot get there overnight, not by 1 or 2 programs. Environmental education is a continuum. It's holistic, and it's inclusive of all. And a matter of fact, it really depends on it. And we also can't do it alone, and we're so grateful for our colleagues throughout the department. As Brian mentioned, the section's mission and vision, those were derived from the direction provided by the city's guiding documents, but our team truly believes in this mission and vision. We know that connecting people and nature builds stronger, healthier, and more environmentally sustainable communities because it develops meaningful connections to nature, and hopefully starting at a young age. There is simply no substitute for hands-on exploration. It's multifaceted and it's multi-sensory, and that setting is a perfect vehicle to encourage the development of critical thinking skills, understanding and compassion. It encourages social interaction, and it also provides some solitary solace for those who seek it. It engages children, and if we're honest, adults as well, in all types of play, which fosters healthy, emotional, social, as well as physical development. And it fully engages our senses. And when that happens, there's more neural as well as emotional connections being made. So I think that we would all agree with the research that early and repeat exposure to the natural world through both education as well as hands-on experiences are the best means to inspire a sense of stewardship. So how do we do this? We do it through programming that is hands-on and it's diverse to accommodate the needs of our community and meet our community where they are at. Through school-based programming, as you see in this picture, to help connect children's curriculum to the real world. Through public programming that helps increase the knowledge, awareness, with programming opportunities such as tree ID programs or learning about our local amphibians and reptiles, or even equally as important, the opportunities to increase appreciation of and increase comfort in nature. We also offer programs, experiences on opportunities that take learners deeper into exploration of local environmental issues, such as neighborhood ecology court, work study programs, as well as citizen science and other natural resource involvement opportunities that you heard from our colleagues earlier in parks. And Sean will speak to these a little bit later in the presentation. And best of all, our family events that simply allow the opportunity to connect to and have fun in nature. And quite often get a little dirty, like the one you see here with from Mud Day. And speaking of fun, outdoor recreation is one of the strongest, most powerful ways to connect people to the natural world and get them jump started on their journey. We provide a diverse array of choice and opportunity for outdoor recreation with programs such as mountain biking, fishing, hiking, paddling, and so much more. Before I pass it back to Brian, I just wanted to take a moment and speak to how we've stayed connected with the community during COVID. The Natural Resources section initiated the Nature Connection newsletter, which offers a section updates, as well as nature, outdoor recreation information and stories, and engaging activities for families to do at home or while they're exploring our parks as we started opening our doors and our gates. Our intention is to get the information to as many of our community as possible. So the content that we're creating for schools and for families is being shared through the newsletter. And each piece is stored on the website, and what is created for one teacher is really shared throughout the entire district. Two examples I'd like to mention are COVID initiatives, our park check-in videos, and these are 10 to 15-minute long video clips that provide the opportunity for students to connect to our sites as well as our site staff and hear about what's happening at those sites. These aren't correlated to standards, they're just fun. And they bring the Nature Home series with Donna. If you haven't gotten to see Miss Donna, you're missing out. She's a real treat. These introduce students to science topics. They are correlated to standards, state standards, and they connect to the students through literacy, movement, song, and math, and then provide extension activities for the families to do at home together. While we want people in our parks, we also understand that when people can't get to them or to us, we still want to connect them to nature. And it's our intention to take this opportunity that COVID has provided and really evaluate our programming from a holistic perspective and identify ways that we can increase our access and engagement to provide opportunities for all. And so with that, I'm going to pass it back to Brian, who's going to speak a little bit more about the experiences that are available across our natural resource sites. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Christy.
Thank you,
And I'm actually pinch hitting in this part of the presentation. Our other program director that is Christy's counterpart, Seth Yearout, his wife is expecting they're about to be adding a new member to the family. So I am pinch hitting for Seth, who's on baby watch right now. And I'll do my best to do his slides justice. So this is the section of the presentation where we want to talk a little bit more about the opportunities and amenities that we have that really speak to that experiences piece of connecting people and nature. this really boils down to place. All right, right. We were talking about programming. Now we'll talk about place. A lot of the use that we get in these sites and the passion that we get, obviously you're seeing that come through in staff tonight, but the passion of the patrons that we have, they're very passionate often about the place that they are. And many of our nature sites are great examples of that. So you see somebody running at Lake Johnson, and there's people that are there, every day, day in, day out, doing their daily exercise, walking, running, or paddling. We've got folks that are biking at the mountain bike trails that we have at Fuller Bridge, or just hiking, getting out in nature and walking, using trail systems, going out, and frankly, just getting away. Obviously, we've talked about it in a couple of different lenses tonight. Then, hashtag 2020, the struggle is real. People are needing to get out, needing to escape. And luckily, we've got places to offer them. And that's been a great thing about being in public service. We've talked about that a bit tonight, but the role that we have as public service, you don't often get to see, the direct connection to it. This has really given us a lens to see the increase in use that we've had in our sites, the amount of people that are getting outside, and what that means in their lives right now. It's been great to see. So the parks that we are responsible for and natural resources have a bunch of different elements that give that type of opportunity to folks. And some of the things that they can do beyond just going there, we also have opportunities for them to do things like rent boats. And we rent a tremendous number of stand-up paddleboards and both single and double kayaks. There was a time in my life where I actually did the color commentary on some kayaking tours and longer ago than I'd like to admit. And we had one double kayak that I saw way too many relationships end over. So I'm not sure why double kayaks are still as popular as they are, but we rent a tremendous number of them. We started, I think, 2013 to 2018, we tripled the number of boats that we rented, number of units from about 7,000 to well over 20,000 in the number of boats that we rent out of the two lakes. And actually, that's just out of Lake Johnson. So it connects people to the park in a different way. And if they don't have that piece of equipment themselves, they can come and rent that equipment at a modest rate and be able to experience areas of the park and experience the park in a way that they might not otherwise do. And it's also nice to be able to say that, healthy, active lifestyles being of the city's strategic plan is something that we're addressing in these sites. Not only are we looking at the guiding documents and how it relates specifically to the parks, but we're doing that at a level that's a bit, a step or two above that too, in terms of the connection back to other guiding documents in the city. And it bears mentioning that there is also that's revenue that comes back in and helps us to do what we do. The same is true with facility rentals. We're blessed with some gorgeous facilities on lakefront property or surrounded wooded areas. Some of the newer ones, especially the Thomas P. Crowder Woodland Center at Lake Johnson up by the pool. If you haven't been there, I highly recommend going there. It's become a popular wedding destination. This grand room here that we have, the Dogwood Room, is very popular. The view out of these windows is spectacular. And people that wouldn't always self-select to come to a nature park, I have heard on many occasions, once they come and somebody has invited them to an event at one of these sites and they come for that rental, they realize the assets that are there and the parks that we've got, and they come back, might not have otherwise. So we do introduce a lot, been through facility rentals. And that's a bit about the locations and equipment, the amenities, the experiences that people have. Tying it back to our colleagues, I think Charles mentioned the fact that they help us, implement. And I think that certainly is true, but I also think it falls short of the full description of myself, Christy, who I'm about to introduce, Sean Goff, who's our land stewardship program manager. We are highly dependent and work very closely with our Parks Division colleagues. We could not be delivering what we're delivering on the ground to the benefit of patrons and people's experiences on the ground without doing it lockstep and utilizing the knowledge and the equipment and the time that Parks Division brings to it. So what we're going to talk about here is I hand it to Sean Goff. is a bit about the conservation side and what we're doing with these landscapes to make sure that the experiences that people have are rich and that these landscapes are here and these parks are here in perpetuity for people to enjoy generations. John?
All right. Thanks, Brian. First, I want to say good evening to all the board members. Thank you all again for taking the time to hear from us. Like Brian said, my name is Sean Goff. I'm the Land Stewardship Program Manager for Raleigh Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resources. I think my colleagues have done an excellent job sort of explaining why the natural resource section is unique, but now I'd like to spend a little time talking about how we actually manage the natural resources that are on our sites. The term natural resources obviously can include many different things. We're talking about both living and non-living elements. It's not just the plants and the animals, obviously, that we focus on, but the waterways, the soils, geological features, and really any aspect of our habitats and communities that we have on our sites. So to put it simply, our primary mission when it comes to natural resource management is to protect, conserve, and enhance those natural resources, not just in our sites, but across really all PRCR sites. In order to do so to the best of our ability, we are in the process of developing comprehensive natural resource management plans. We're focusing first on the designated nature preserves, and then we hope to extend that to the rest of the natural resource section sites. We are actually almost, we're in the process of finalizing our first natural resource plan for the Dr. Annie Louise Wilkerson Nature Preserve. So that's exciting because we'll have that coming down the line here soon. What's in these management plans would be a good question to ask. We're going to have important details that outline the various resources, habitats, communities, the facilities, the unique features on the sites. These plans will also contain prescriptions for management actions, and will detail the specific objectives, the logistics, the timing and frequency of these actions, and the cooperative partnerships, and many, many more. We can't do it alone, obviously, so we actively partner with, as it's been said plenty of times, our other PRCR divisions, especially Parks Division and Volunteer Services, in order to get our goals, accomplish our goals. We've brought in cooperating agencies like the NC Forest Service and the NC Wildlife Resources Commission, which I believe Mr. Dillon mentioned earlier. North Carolina State Parks, Wake County Parks and Rec, Wake Nature Preserves Partnership, Wake Audubon, and I could kind of go on and on. We accomplished some of these goals also with volunteers as well, which I think helps connect our community to our sites and really provides or creates a sense of ownership amongst the volunteers. So when I talk about management practices and prescriptions, I'm talking about the various scientific and land management strategies that we need to implement in order to best protect, conserve, and enhance our natural resources. In the upper left photo on this slide, you'll see natural resource staff working with volunteers and experts to conduct ecological monitoring. This is actually from a BioBlitz event we had at Forest Ridge, where natural resource experts and from many different fields and other members of the public came to work with natural resources staff to identify as many plant and animal species as they could in a single day. This type of monitoring is the most important thing we can do on many of our sites because it helps us locate and identify those actual resources that we have. This includes any rare or threatened or otherwise significant plants or animals, and helps us identify unique habitats and communities as well. All this information helps us guide our management decisions and ensures that we're implementing the best and highest quality land stewardship practices that we can. The photo in the lower left is from the dam repair construction at Durant Nature Preserve. This represents another important management practice, and that is the establishment, or in many cases, the reestablishment and the management of native vegetation. So this could include seeding, planting, pasture land conversion, hardwood control, invasive species control, you name it. And by appropriately managing and restoring our native vegetation, we're helping to restore important ecological elements that may have been extirpated or that may no longer be around on the site. This is another good example of how the City of Raleigh departments work together to think outside of the norms. The construction contractor wanted to use large stone and riprap essentially on the backside of the dam here to prevent erosion, which is a routine practice. But the natural resource staff worked with the Parks Division and the Stormwater Division to come up with another alternative, which was to seed in native plants and pollinator species. This not only created an ecological lift, but it also created a very desirable attraction for our visitors. Skipping to the photo in the middle, the photo in the center is from our first controlled burn, which was conducted back in 2017 at the Wilkerson Nature Preserve. This is another success story, really, of internal and external partnerships coming together and achieving collective goals. We, Natural Resources, worked with Parks Division to assist the North Carolina Forest Service in conducting the controlled burn on roughly 3 acres of early successional habitat. We'll plan to utilize these partnerships with these agencies going forward, and we'll probably try to increase our use of prescribed fire in the appropriate sites because it's an important natural disturbance. It's helped shape our ecosystems, especially in the Southeast United States, and it can provide really numerous ecological benefits when applied correctly. The photos on the right represent the abundant wildlife we have in our parks and preserves. I believe it was Mrs. Presnell Jeanette, and I'm probably saying that wrong. She mentioned the wildlife, and our sites are extremely important to the wildlife in our area. They effectively act as islands of refuge in a sea of urbanization. And because of that, they become very concentrated in our parks and preserves, as opposed to in the less urban areas where they have more room to kind of spread out. So this makes the management of our habitats and resources really even more critical. As I mentioned before, we rely on our intra and interagency partnerships to get all this stuff done while simultaneously building our own capacity and our own capabilities within the natural resource section itself. I've included some of the logos of our partners on the bottom, and we all work together on many levels, not just from the on-the-ground implementation, but actually in the planning and plan writing processes as well. We try to design our volunteer projects to meet the management needs while also making sure the scope is appropriate for the public. And this, again, helps create ownership amongst our volunteers and provides an opportunity for us as PRCR employees to work with a diverse group of Raleigh citizens. Finally, we are developing an educational program, educational programming components for each of the major management activities. So the goal here is to inform our visitors on the who, what, where, when, why, and how related to all these management implementations, these management strategies. We're developing informative materials that we can share on social media and our website. We plan to use on-site signage, which Owen Cass mentioned, and I think Mrs. Clark mentioned earlier too. This will help inform our visitors on-site as to what we're working on. And we're also developing interpretive programs similar to what Christy was talking about earlier that will incorporate all age groups and can be delivered on-site and in an area where active management is taking place. We believe that community outreach is very important. It informs and educates the public and provides a level of transparency that I think everyone appreciates. But ultimately, we hope to foster the curiosity of the next generation of natural resource professionals and land managers. So with that, that's all my time. I'll pass that back to Brian. Thank you guys again.
Thanks, Sean. A little bit about where we're going and circle it back around to the mission and close out. Experiences, education, and conservation are really the areas that we're focused and places that we're going. COVID has taught us some important lessons. I mentioned it earlier and reinforce it here. It's the importance of access, the fact that the sites exist and people can get there. What we can do once they get there makes those experiences richer. But the fact that the sites are there and the experience that we can provide to anybody who's going to go out and try to enjoy nature, whether they're purposely trying to increase their heart rate or purposely trying to decrease their heart rate, we're happy either way. And if we can provide locations and opportunities for them to do that, we understand how important the access is to experiences that people have. And this timing is teaching us exactly just a bit more about what that means and how we might want to think about what we do with those sites moving forward. And from an education perspective, we are just about to hire the Sean's equivalent, will be the program manager on the nature side of the house. And that person, along with Christy, will really be helping, along with our sites, looking at strategic evaluation of our program offering. Are we teaching the right things? Are we teaching them the right way? Are they the things that people want to know about? We need to do more sort of drop-in type programming rather than people having to register for it ahead of time. What is it that people want to consume, and how do they want to consume? How can we best serve patrons and how they want to come to us? That's one of the places that we're focusing. I'm very happy to have that process of hiring almost done. And wrapping it back around to conservation, the management of these open spaces, as I said, is in part obviously a conservation. Conservation is wise use. So how do we love these spaces without loving them to death, and make sure that we are enhancing the experiences of folks that are going to come there to enjoy them, while at the same time making sure that these spaces exist so that the next generation can enjoy them. And as Sean mentioned and Christy mentioned, what we're trying to do is connect those conservation opportunities, those conservation projects that we're doing with an education component. Very least making sure that we're being transparent and that folks understand what it is that's going on through additional communication. Sean connected it back to one of the Owens and what they showed in terms of the signage that's being used. That level of communication is something that's very important. And I'll leave you with this, which I think sort of sums up a lot of what we're doing in the statement. Explain it here as it goes on. So what you just saw is a family of otters, a group of river otters that is not in a, they're not in the middle of nowhere. They're inside the Beltline. That group of otters is at the Walnut Creek Wetland Center behind it. That's a trail camera. Many of our sites use trail cameras as part of their programming. We use them to get understanding of what's going on. And that video, as you can see, was collected on the 7th of September, just over a month ago. And these three guys showed up a couple of years ago. We've caught them on video multiple times, along with a lot of other really interesting characters. And if you think about what we have in terms of the parks, but also their connection to the things that Owen mentioned in Greenway corridors that we have, there's 4,000 acres of Greenway corridors in addition to the roughly 2,000 acres that we're responsible for in resources sites. Those types of connections, that type of connectivity, what we're doing for habitat management results in this sort of thing. The fact that you have the opportunity or even know that this type of thing, a group of otters is thriving inside the Beltline is a pretty special thing for us to have. Special thing for us to be able to educate people on, and it's a special thing that'll help us connect people with nature and to have that experience. So we're really pleased to be able to be a part of it and really appreciate having the time to share with you guys very much. Have contact information. If you wanted to reach out to any of us, subscribe to the newsletter, or get involved in any of the volunteer work that we're going to be doing, certainly reach out, and have questions. I'd be happy to entertain them now or follow up with you.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Great, thorough presentation. Really appreciate it. We just to remind the board, these two presentations that we just had were ones that had been requested and sort of kept getting pushed. So I'm really happy that we've had those now. I do want to acknowledge the fact that our meeting has gotten kind of late, and we did have a lot of presentations tonight. So I want to be sensitive to everyone's time and just you know, I know that there's 2 more presentations that we're expecting. And so I want to kind of take the flavor of everybody. You know, do we need to have a little recess? Do you want to try to move one of the presentations to another meeting? I hate to do that to staff that have been sitting here with us waiting to give their presentation this long, but I just wanted to acknowledge that and kind of just see what everyone thinks. Any thoughts? And also, if you have any comments for the presentation that just happened as well. But first, I just kind of wanted to address that elephant in the room.
I'd say let the staff present since they are here. I need to deliver something to my door. I just got a text, but I'll be right back.
Okay.
Yeah, how about we do the presentations and then skip committee liaison member reports?
I'd be fine with that. And yeah, Oscar and Giovanna if we have committee reports, can we just email it out to the board after? Would that be one way to handle it?
I know the only one that really needs to just say something is Charlie regarding Fletcher.
Okay.
So other than that, everything else can be emailed out.
And then I think we also have an item from Parks Committee as well.
Right.
Okay.
To move forward.
Okay.
But yeah, everything else can be emailed out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Well, unless anyone else has any objection to that, then we can just kind of keep plowing through. One matter of kind of just housekeeping, we do need to keep our cameras on during the meeting. If it's during a presentation and you need to skip out for a second to grab a drink or go to the bathroom, we get it, that's fine. But just generally, let's try to keep our cameras on because it's a public meeting. All right, thanks everybody. Now, any questions for the presentation we just had or comments? I see clapping. Yeah. Great. Thank you all so much. And not seeing any comments or questions, then I say let's just move right on into the financial assistance presentation.
Yes. First of all, Brian, Sean, Christy, thank you all so much. Great job. Appreciate all the work y'all are doing. So thank you. All right. Next up, we have Debbie Houston. Debbie is our financial assistance program administrator, and she's going to give a quick overview of our Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resources Financial Assistance Program. Debbie?
Yeah, I only have 3,000 slides. It's not going to take long at all. And I also will warn you, I talk with my hands, so if you see all this going on, I apologize. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you. And hold on one second. Oops. Can you guys see this? Okay.
Okay.
So as Oscar said, I am Debbie Houston. Thank you all for having me here to present tonight. And I'm the program administrator for our financial assistance program, which is also known as Play It Forward Raleigh. So a little background. So seeing a need in the community, PRCR, actually the staff held their first departmental auction way back in 1993 because they saw a need for financial assistance for families. From at least the mid 1980s until 2015, this was a part-time position. And in 2015, it became a full-time position. When I came on board in 2017, the first assignment I was given was to make the application available online. So I've created a one-stop shop where you can get financial assistance information, volunteer information, donations, and it's all on the city's website. The other thing I've done is when I first started, our application was actually 3 pages. And I talked with Miss Yvonne, like some of you guys might know from DHIC, and she's like, it's way too long. And I was like, you're right. So condensed it down to a 1-page application. And the other thing I'm pretty proud of is this past February, I held my first event, which was Dodge for a Codge, a dodgeball tournament, where about $2,000 all went towards the program. So the policy, or the fine print, as I like to call it. Basically, anybody that qualifies are going to get a fee reduction of 25 to 50% off the cost of our programs that cost more than $15. We do have applicants submit a completed application, their 1040 tax information and pay stubs. However, I was working with staff from Wake County Human Services, and I found out that they already require people to do that for public assistance. So I was like, why do we have to ask for it as well? So anybody receiving public assistance, I will just take something as simple as their Medicaid card. And just for your general knowledge, Anybody receiving Medicaid or SNAP, which is the old FIAS, SNAP benefits, they have to be making 130% or less of the federal poverty level. So these are really families that need the support. Our options. So we've got 4 types of financial assistance. The first is that fee reduction that I just spoke of, where the patron's going to pay either 50 or 75% of the cost. The second is our payment plan, which is basically a no interest loan. So we give them a set time that they can make their payments, and that's what happens. The third option is that I have families that are getting that reduction in cost, but they're also taking me up on the payment plans. And then lastly, we have a collaboration through the City of Oaks Foundation and Parks and Rec, and it's called the Give Play Camps. And we give kids a week long of nature programming for the summer. And it's a free, no cost for ages 5 to 13. So I'm now going to give you a little background about my people. They are my families. I'm going to be using data from the fiscal year 19, and that's because it's my last full year of programming because of COVID. So it gives you the best representation. As you can see, most of my families are new. As people hear about it, they sign up for the financial assistance program. A lot of them also are Raleigh residents. 421 of them were actually Raleigh residents. The 163, well, they weren't Raleigh residents. Most of them were Wake County residents. Also, most of my families received 50% assistance. The 2 that received 100% assistance, they were actually both experiencing homelessness. One of our families was living in a car, he and his 3 children. Our community center director, he was kind of outside her center. She talked to him and found out that they were residing in their car, and we were able to get them into summer camps for the remainder of the summer. The other family wanted to use our showers. They're homeless and they wanted to use our showers. They just wanted a place to take a shower. So we gave the family annual pool pass. Most of my clients, just so you know, are single parent with 2 children. And so that means 33% of them make $21,330 a year or less. And 73% of my families are going to be receiving some form of public assistance, whether it's Medicaid, whether it's SNAP. Payment plans. This slide is showing you that even though families may or may not receive the financial assistance, they're still taking us up on that payment plan. Last year for summer camp, and this is before withdrawals or any additions, we had 5,047 unique clients that registered for at least 1 week of summer camp. And of that, we've had almost 2,000 took us up on the payment plan. Similarly, for school programs, we had almost 2,000 families register for our school programs. And again, about 1,000 of them took us up on our payment plans. For my financial assistance families, pretty much they take me up on the payment plan. The only reason summer camp did not is because the time for a payment plan had already ended. They were registering like the week before camp started. So, as I mentioned earlier, most of my families do reside in Raleigh. And what this map is showing you is that my most populated areas. So, and I'll use my cursor if I can. Oops, can't. So, excuse me, going back real quick. I'm so sorry. So if you notice, the dark blue is the most populated area that my financial assistance families live in, which is the 27610. The next would be 27616, and then 27604. So definitely seeing as families are moving out, gentrification is occurring downtown. They're going out that New Hope Church Road, Capitol Boulevard area. On the left of this map is the Wake County's Vulnerability Index, which a couple of other people have talked about. The dark green shows the areas that are the least vulnerable. The dark orange are the more vulnerable communities. And then the other map on the right is my map of financial assistance families by zip code. And again, the dark green is showing the more populated areas where we're getting more financial assistance families coming from, whereas the gray means that we probably don't have anybody coming from that area. And again, that dark green area that you're seeing is the 27610 zip code. I did ask one of our data specialists to overlay the Wake County map with my financial assistance patrons so you can get a real apple to apple look at, because it's based on the census plots. So you can see, and the one thing to note is that Wake County's data is a couple of years behind. And my data is actually from this year. And so like at Briar Creek, when I first started, was all a healthy green. And I'm already starting to see, so this is 2018's map, it's already turning yellow. And I'm actually starting to have more clients contacting me saying, you know, I live in the Briar Creek area, the apartments around Briar Creek Elementary School, we're having more families move out that way. This is a side-by-side comparison of my financial assistance expenditures from 2013 to 2019. As you can see, our programs are popular. The need continues to rise. Last year was my highest year yet. And it's not just for our school and summer camp programs, it's also for general programs like athletics, swim lessons, you name it. This is more of a in the weeds comparison of the 2 fiscal years. And the number of participants are actually the number of people that live in the household that actually attended one of our programs. So there's a number of families and then the number of participants. And those participants are the actual family members. Funding sources. So my funding comes generally from 5 main areas. The first is I receive 10% assistance, 10% of the fees from our athletics programs. So that's one of them. The other is donations. So donations based. Also, if you buy like a Coke or a packet of nabs from our vending machine, thank you. You're a philanthropist. You are donating to my cause. A percentage of that sales goes to the fund as well. Also programs like the Paint Your Heart Out program, my dodgeball tournament, SRIS, which is our Specialized Recreation and Inclusion Services, they have donors as well. In the past, they donated a little bit to my fund, but now the money is going strictly to Specialized Recreation and Inclusion. And then lastly, we actually are going to a new computer software system, and we have credits sitting on our account. So we've been contacting all of our patrons and saying, hey, you've got a credit on your account. Would you like a refund, or would you like to donate it to the Play It Forward Financial Assistance Program? And this past year, we received almost $15,000 in unused credits that they were like, yes, I am happy to donate that to you. One thing that's not on this chart is I actually applied for the first grant ever and received it from Kaleidoscope Project. And that is going to be $6,000 that I'm going to get to use partnering with Walnut Creek Wetland Center. I've got preschoolers coming from the Raleigh Rescue Mission. So children that are currently experiencing homelessness are going to get to do a full week of summer camp with us at Walnut Creek. So how do people find out about me? Well, I'm everywhere. I'm at Raleigh Tamale. I'm at Chavis. I think this, Dr. Love, I've ridden the trolley with you and you do an amazing tour. I am at every night of Holiday Express, my dodgeball tournament. You name it, an information booth, I'm there. I present at staff meetings, whether it's for the state's Health and Human Services, Wake County's, Easter Seals. I also go out to Step Up Ministries, Raleigh Rescue Mission, First and Families, and actually meet with the families. I'm also part of the Social Equity and Vitality Committee with Crosby Garfield and on the Community Partner Network. I attend all the open school housings and let families know about our financial assistance there. Social workers, school counselors, English language teachers with the school systems are invaluable resources for me. And if you haven't realized this, I tend to be a walking billboard, and I will tell everybody and anybody about this. I'm just talking fast for you guys so I can kind of hurry it up. But as Oscar knows, I could easily spend over an hour just telling you about my program. But most importantly, it's through my partnerships that I find out about this. And one of the big things is for a lot of these families, we are seen as a government agency and they are scared to work with us. So I make it a mission that I go out and I actually meet these families where they are, because I want them to know that we're a safe place, that they can count on us, that we have this connection, and they want what's best for their kids, and we do too. And the city of Raleigh is so important because it's not just our own department, it's not just Parks and Recs, but it's Housing and neighborhoods, I work with them. I work with Office of Sustainability. I've worked with Office of Public Safety. And then Go Raleigh, we were able to get all of our TOPS teenagers bus passes. We took them on a field trip where they got to ride the bus. And now they can ride the bus to work. They can go places, and they've become more independent just through the collaborations that we're finding. So moving forward, I would be very happy if this became the SAS Play It Forward Financial Assistance Program offered through the City of Raleigh, looking for sponsorships and grant opportunities. I want to put clings on all of our vending machines that say, hey, thank you, you're donating to our cause. Continue fundraising at special events and creating new events, working with the PTAs, local churches, pediatrician offices, apartment complexes. And then our new computer software is going to be great, not just for donations, but also for my families. It's going to be a streamlined system that it's going to be so much easier for them to register for programs. But most importantly, I'd love for you guys to take this up as a cause. Some of my largest individual donations have actually come from somebody asking me what I do for a living. I just got $1,000 from somebody wanting to know what I do and me just spilling it out and letting them know about the program. And this is my next slide, and this is my last slide for you guys. It is some of the quotes from my families. My favorite one is the last one. She is a person I met with one of these partner organizations. She's from Davidson County. She has 2 sons. She's terrified of swimming. She'd never gone in the water. And when I met her, she's like, I don't want that for my boys. I want them to be able to swim. And I said, you know what? We're not only going to get your boys swimming, we're going to get you swimming too. And they took swim lessons. They took every single program that we offered. And this email actually came to me last 4th of July. She sent me this in a picture. They had gone to the beach. For the first time in her 48 years, she had gone to the ocean, and she had taken her sons, and they felt comfortable being in the water. And her 13-year-old son asks me every Monday, because they register for our lap swimming at Pullen, when can I become a lifeguard? Because I'm going to work for you guys, right? And I'm like, yeah, that's going to happen. But just this program is not just important for the financial aspect, but just so important because it's changing lives. Like, it's really changing lives. So that was my quick condensed version. If you have questions, this is my contact information. If you have somebody that you would like me to talk to, I will give them a longer presentation. But if you have any questions, please let me know.
Hey, Jennifer, if I may, Deborah, Scott Payne, you appreciate this. Deborah, I grew up on Raleigh Parks and Rec. I think J.C. Park is the best park in the world. I grew up in Oberlin Village. I played Little League basketball, Little League football, and baseball at J.C. Park. I was just there this past Saturday for the Oberlin Village reunion. And I will say this, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I remember I paid nothing to play sports there, 0. When you cannot afford nothing, you play Little League basketball. I remember going to the Raleigh Parks and Rec at camp. You show up, you didn't show up, but it was for free. I don't know how they subsidized and how they did it. I've been working for the Y 23 years, and I love the Y, but I'm a Raleigh Parks advocate. And Scott Payne, you appreciate that. And I mean it from the bottom of my heart. And Deborah, I say this from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate your passion. Keep doing what you're doing. The kids that you're touching, gentrification is real. Let's not get that twisted. The Oberlin Village, J.C. Park has changed. But I'll say this, that I appreciate the work, your enthusiasm, and all that you do. In my 50 years, I grew up in 1970. From 1975 all the way to 85, I played Little League sports and Junior League sports all throughout my life, and I paid absolutely nothing if I paid for my uniform, and I appreciate that. Keep up the work that you're doing. Anything that I can do, the Oberlin Village can do, I support you 125%.
Thank you so much. And I will take issue. I also grew up in Raleigh Parks, native of Raleigh, so peace out to us, but Millbrook was the best.
I don't know about that. Y'all play the Little League, y'all always play the Little League championship game, the baseball at J.C. Park. J.C. Park was
a kid.
Right, Scott?
Well,
Awesome.
thank you.
And any other comments or questions? Thank you so much, Debbie.
You're welcome, and thank you for letting me be here tonight and talk to you guys.
Yeah, thank you so much, Debbie. As you all can see, Debbie has a great passion for what she does and help, serve the community. So if there's one thing that this board can do is really try to advocate for our financial assistance program. So you all have Debbie's contact information, but anything you all can do to kind of really help, spread the word about her program and throw some potential donors her way, it really is going to help the families that need it the most. So, let's please help spread the word.
I'm happy if you have somebody that you would like me to come out to and give a longer presentation, I'm happy to do that. But I'm going to go, if you've got my contact information, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing.
Thank you, Debbie.
I have two things I want to say.
Sure.
And one of them is, while we listened to some really awesome presentations from the Dick's Conservancy, and we heard all about Greg Poole, I think that group needs to hear from you. And that's a lot of folks with some real deep resources, and I think it's sort of turnabout is fair play. And so I would encourage, obviously Mr. Malone is no longer on our call because his thing was done, but if either Jennifer or Oscar could facilitate you being a part of that, I think that it would be a good place to be. And my nuts and bolts question is need versus what you have available. Are you turning people away, or where does that ratio?
Our policy is that we're not going to turn somebody away. So we haven't had to turn anybody away. And we want to make sure anybody that wants to participate in our programs, we're going to make it happen. And we don't want money to be a barrier for them. So like I said, the first auction, it's staff. I mean, staff will pull the money out of their own pockets if we have to make sure. Yeah, not to make sure that this happens. But as of right now, we have not had to do that.
Well, Madam Chair, I mean, I've been trying to get chairs for years since I've been on this board if you want to get appointed, it's $100 a year at the least. If you want to be appointed, it's $100 a year, and you put your money, and that's the limit to be on this board. And I think that should be your prerogative this year. Is if you want to serve on this board, it's $100 at the very least. Now kick up and let's do something right.
Well, that's an interesting point of view, and I know a lot of boards do that, but this is not a board that's about raising money necessarily, and it's not a board that we want to exclude anyone for financial reasons. So I would hesitate to that, but that's an interesting point, Chris.
But we could ask all of our elected officials who have campaign accounts to contribute.
I'm going to work on getting more funding.
Thank you. And honestly, just go out and buy some Coke and some nabs, because the money's coming to me too.
I'll chip in your $100, Madam Chair, if you don't have it.
And I'm glad you gave the presentation, Debbie, because we had heard from Ken and others, all these little tricklings of all the work that was being done. And so we really wanted to hear the full story. And so I really appreciate that presentation. Thank you.
Thank you for having me come out. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. And Chris, we'll talk offline.
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Hi, Lindsay. Go ahead.
Two points. One, strongly opposed to Chris's suggestion because that boxes people out to serve, and people like me would not be able to serve if FD was put in place. That is a barrier, and that's already an obstacle that hinders so many women and other populations and younger people, so many other groups from being able to serve in public office and run for office. So I'll fight you all day long against that one. I don't think that's very fair, inclusive. But to my other question was, maybe you answered it and I didn't hear it, but could you say what was the phrase I saw on the screen, Debbie, about clean vending? Like Brad told me something about like funding coming from that, but what does that phrase mean?
So they have these little clings that you can put on it, and I've actually developed it. It says "Play It Forward," Raleigh, which is our logo, and it says "Thank you for playing it forward." So for our vending machines, a percentage of all those sales, whether you're buying a honey bun or a packet of nabs or Cokes, a portion of that money goes into my account. And so these little clings sit right onto the concession stand on the vending machines, and they're going to let people know that, hey, you're donating. When you buy something from our vending machines, it's going into the account.
Like a sticker.
Yep.
That's cool. So it's like you just mean like it's a sticker on the object that comes out of the machine?
No. It's on the machine itself. So like if you went to go get a drink from the machine, you'd see pretty prominently, "Play it forward, Raleigh. Thanks for playing it forward." And if anybody asks about it, they can find out that, yeah, you're donating to the financial assistance program. So it's
phenomenal.
Hey, Jennifer, I appreciate you. Chris, I appreciate you saying that. I think, again, Jennifer, I appreciate you saying as well. I think we got to understand equity again. Back in the days in 1970, 75, Chris, J.C. Park was not 27, it was like 27610 now. J.C. Park and Oakland Village are not 27610 no more. All right? That gentrification has happened. Those houses over there have $400,000-$500,000. Let's make sure we're clear on that. So $100 to some people is a lot of money. Some people, that may not be a lot of money. That money back then would not have able to me and my family to participate. All right? So they're shifting out. So I appreciate you saying that, Chris, but at the same time, we got to be careful about a board, about giving people in different places and financially. Back in the days when you played Little League Baseball, Scott Payne, you provided your cleats. That was it. Raleigh Parks and Rec provided the bats, the balls, the helmets, and everything else. So it does not happen like that no more. So if you ain't got children, don't understand that, let's make sure we're clear on that. And so, Chris, I challenge you. If you got the money, you give your own money. Don't challenge anybody else.
I'll do it.
My man. I mean, and I'm saying, like Jennifer said, with a board, that's different. So understand, that's when you got to understand what Raleigh Parks' the mission and the vision is.
What I was saying, $100 a year, how many people would get that? Not $100 a month. $100 a year, how many kids could we get?
Chris,
we work from there.
Hey, Chris, again, to some people, I'm just saying, not for me, for some people now, $100 for some people is a lot of money. To some
$100 to me is a lot of money.
All right. So, Deborah, thank you again. I'm an advocate for the Raleigh Parks and Rec. I get it. I ain't forgot where I come from. It ain't where you're from, it's where you at.
That is very true. Thank you, Kendall.
Is there a blog or something about the program that, like, you know, I could just tweet like every week? Yeah, I have I don't know, 1,600 Twitter followers, and I have an email newsletter. I have a newsletter too, so I would like to promote this program.
So I send out a newsletter to my family. To anybody that receives financial assistance, like I said, they are my families. I take care of them. I just send them out stuff about Toys for Tots. I'm like, hey, it's time to sign up. You got to do it. Get on board. I don't have anything really that I mean, there's the web page.
Yeah.
I don't have anything that I like every week. However, certain times during the year, I'm pretty blatant. Like I'll go to 5 Points at Christmas time with this picture of these adorable children asking for donations. I will freely do that. Swim lesson time, I will send out stuff about, hey, life-saving skills. Would you like to donate so that somebody else can learn how to swim? Summer camp. So I'm happy to send you some of those flyers. I'm actually just created a new donation flyer for the department that has Play It Forward. It also has donating to parks and also about volunteer information. We're just waiting for that to go through actually being printed up, but I can send you stuff like that. But yeah, if you've got my contact information, please shoot me an email. I would be happy to write stuff up for you for your blog, whatever you would like.
Well, I mean, I don't know, like the presentation you just gave, you have those quotes and those pictures. That's really compelling. And so like I clicked on the link that Scott just put in there, thank you, that's very helpful. But like that compelling story you told about the family learning to swim, like that is really powerful. And so that should be like its own, it can live online somewhere.
So right now it's all in my mind, but
I can help you.
I would
That's what I do. But that's like that. Like if you had annual stories like that to send out and we would share them with our networks, you know, that's there have been so many programs that have helped me get where I am, and my family got financial assistance for a lot of things, and so
Well, and that's one of the things. So in my presentation, every single one of those pictures was one of our families. And there's
Yeah.
actually one picture where there's a mom swimming and then there's two kids playing music. And that was actually from the same family. And they made the same leisure. And she was like, can you send me 20 copies? And that's what she sent out to her family for Christmas, was their leisure. She was so proud of her model family. And so, yeah, I mean, those were my families. So
That's really phenomenal.
Marcia, do you have a comment?
I do. I'd like to suggest that you get an article in the Walter magazine.
Oh, yeah.
I think that your stories would be wonderful. And there's probably a lot of wealthy people that would see that and contribute. So that's my suggestion.
Thank you very much for that. Is there any other questions or anything else I can help you guys with? Okay. Thank you again for all the wonderful suggestions and everything. I really appreciate you guys letting me come and talk to you guys.
Thanks for coming out tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Debbie.
Raleigh Parks is good. It's great to have someone like you on that team. Believe that.
Thank you so much.
Whoever hired you did a great job. Hope that was Scott.
It was Helene. It was Miss Helene. And I just have to say, Dr. Love did well teaching Miss Helene. So there you go.
All right. Well, it looks like we have one more presentation, which is from Emma Lyles. It's the hopefully a fairly quick project update on the Raleigh University Historic Park schematic design.
Yes. I know you all have been here a long time, so I'll make this very quick. So yes, I'm talking about the Raleigh University Historic Park schematic design. So I'm just going to quickly do a little refresher on the site, do a project timeline, talk a little bit about the master plan, and then kind of dive into the details of the schematic design, and then talk a little bit about the community engagement that we've done and next steps. You guys have seen Raleigh University Historic Park before, so I'll keep this very brief. Reverend Lava was born into slavery, but after emancipation, graduated from Shaw, founded Raleigh University in 1892. It ran for 30 years and focused on educating underprivileged African American youth in Raleigh. Once it closed, a lot of the property was sold off, but the house that Reverend Latta lived in with his family remained even after they moved out, and it stood until about 2007 when it accidentally burned down. But that led the park property to be deeded to the city of Raleigh as a park property. And this is in Overland Village, right behind JC Park. So we started the situation assessment in 2018. That was adopted by City Council February 2019. We rolled straight into the master plan, and that was adopted by City Council March of this year. And since then, we have been working on the schematic design for phase one. We're hoping to go to City Council by the end of the year, and then after permitting and bidding, hoping to start construction by summer of 2021. So this is the master plan. You guys before, so I'll keep this brief. So it's got a historic interpretation path that forms a loop around the site with signage along it and benches and ornamental gardens. There is also creative and interactive historic interpretation at various points in the site, an interpretive pavilion in the southeast corner, an outdoor patio kind of near that central grassy field of the site. And we propose to outline where the Latta House stood with some inset gravel or pavers. This is the phasing that we developed during the master plan. So phase one will include the historic signage, the Latta House outline improvements, an enhanced site entrance off of Parker Street, paths and park benches, and succession plantings and invasive removal. Future phases will be that creative and interactive historic interpretation, additional signage, the ornamental gardens, the pavilion, and the patio. So we have approximately $70,000 currently available in the budget for phase one. We're already starting to work with community volunteers for invasive removal. And once construction's done, we'll start working with them again to do some succession plantings as well. So just real quick again, here is the master plan, because I want to show you how it transitions from this into the schematic design. So the schematic design was developed in-house by Gary Claiborne. This is one of the earlier iterations of it. As you can see, the path has moved in closer to the center of the site. That is to minimize grading so we don't do as much ground disturbance, and to kind of avoid some of those critical tree critical root zones. This shows the phase 2 elements as well as the phase 1 elements. This is the final design we have. So off of Parker Street and off of Tower Street, we're gonna have concrete entry paths, and then the path itself will be Chapel Hill grit with aluminum siding. The Latta House outline, we decided on doing granite inset into the ground and then reutilizing some of those bricks that we saved from the Latta House foundation and denoting where the doorways and the entrances of the house were with those. And you can see the historic signage and the benches along the path as well. So here's some details for the path paving, so you can see what Chapel Hill grit looks like if you're unfamiliar, and to kind of illustrate what the aluminum siding will look like. This slide shows we're going to put in one of our typical park signs off of Parker Street. This is an example in the middle of what the house outline will look like, but again, it will be granite and brick, not the aggregate that's shown in this picture. And in the top right, you have the lecturing style historic signage that we'll be using. And then the bottom right is an example of a park bench found in one of our historic sites. So for our community engagement, we did a virtual open house from September 8th to October 5th. We notified the Citizen Planning Committee that was involved with the master plan. We notified the Friends of Oberlin Village, the Hillsborough Wade CAC. We had collected a subscriber list from publicinput.com when we were doing the master plan process. We also did outreach through GovDelivery and social media. During that month, though, we only had 11 participants. We just asked a real simple question: are you satisfied with schematic design? 50% said completely satisfied, 40% very, 10% moderately satisfied. We got a comment about these types of parks and what I love about Raleigh. Somebody's very glad we're including the benches. We did have one question, and they asked if there was going to be any signage on nearby main roads directing you to the park. And we responded saying there is already vehicular wayfinding near the park, but it does still just say Latta House and University site. So we'll work to update those signs now that we have a council adopted name of Latta University Historic Park. And then the last final comment we got was, looks great, looking forward to visiting, looking forward to taking students and teaching them the history of Latta and Oberlin Village. So next steps, Douglas Porter with the Historic Resources and Museum Program is currently heading up the development of an interpretive plan. So he's working with a committee of public and academic historians, and they're looking at all of the interpretive elements from phase 1 and phase 2 and kind of creating an overarching plan for everything, looking at themes, and they're going to work on developing the specific content for the signage for phase 1. We also still need to apply for a certificate of appropriateness since this is a Raleigh historic landmark. We got one already for the master plan, but we have to get one for each time we do phased implementation. But since we already have one for the master plan, this one will just be a minor work. So it can just be approved internally by city staff, and we don't have to go do the Raleigh Historic Development Commission again. And yeah, and our timeline for the rest of the year, hoping to go to historic board next month. Just a reminder, since this is a historic park, you know, we did the situation assessment and the master plan went through historic board for approval and recommendation to council, and the schematic design will as well. And yeah, we're hoping to go to city council December 1st, trying to wrap this up so we can start construction soon. All right, I hope I made that brief enough, but any questions?
That was great. Thank you, Emma. Anyone have any comments or questions for Emma? Thanks. I mean, like, I'll just kind of reiterate what you said there at the end. This is really going through Historic Resources Museums Advisory Board, and they're the ones that are making recommendations to council. So Emma's updates to us are just to keep us in the loop, really. Great, thank you. Oops. All right, I think we can move on. Just quickly, did anyone have a chance to look at the minutes that Giovanna posted earlier this afternoon for July? And if folks have, okay, great. And would anyone
have a attribution that I need to forfeit? There's an attribution under member comments on page 3 near the bottom, Ms. Ashcraft reported that she visited with Conservation Corps. Ms. Ashcraft would have loved to have visited with the Conservation Corps, but actually it was Marsha Presnell Jeanette who did so. So that attribution needs to be made for Marsha Presnell Jeanette. I salute you, Marsha.
Thank you, Carol.
Thank you. I'll make that change.
Anything else? With that correction, would anyone like to make a movement to approve the minutes? A motion?
It's 8:45. I move with that motion, Jennifer, that we accept those minutes of the last meeting that we had so we can move forward.
Thank you. We have a second?
Second.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
That was Lindsay that gave a second, Giovanna.
Thank you.
Yes, sorry.
Okay, any against? Seeing none, that's approved. Can we, Oscar, unless you have anything that you want to highlight, would it be okay for you to we can read through your director's report?
Can do that. I can just go ahead and I just want to really kind of point out 2 highlights of it. At the October 6th City Council meeting, they approved you all's work plan for fiscal year 2021. So it's time to get to work. And then secondly, as I had emailed you all last week, we did move into phase 3.0 starting October the 10th, and we did reopen various park amenities and facilities. Most notably, we started renting our athletic fields once again, outdoor field rentals, and also we'll be opening Buffalo Road Aquatic Center effective October the 19th. And that's all I have.
Thank you. So for the committee reports, Parks Committee, Chris, do you want to give an update? We did have some important work there.
We had a great meeting about citywide engagement. There's going to be an engagement plan that's going to incorporate across all departments. As chair, I would ask that we work with Dr. Caesar and Danya Perry at the Raleigh Chamber of Commerce to incorporate the DEI into our engagement program. And we'll have one more meeting at the Parks Board, November 5th on our engagement, and then the full board after that. So really exciting. Only other thing I have to say is get out and vote. Early voting's open.
Thank you, Chris. Stephen, did you have anything you wanted to add to Parks Committee?
No, I was just going to add that I thought it was a productive meeting, and we're putting a lot of work into making sure that we're still doing everything that all the other departments are doing, but just trying to have the flexibility to meet people where they are. The current policy is really prescriptive. So I think by these improvements, it'll allow staff and the board to be more engaging in our processes. So.
Great, thank you. So let's see, Charlie Fletcher.
Yes, so as all of you know, the Fletcher Awards in person was canceled last May. We finally found a day when working with staff to do a drive-up event. That's going to be on Saturday, October 31st from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's going to be at the Walnut Creek Wetland Park. We are seeking volunteers from the Parks Board to kind of help us distribute those awards. Award winners are going to have predetermined times to drive up and pick up their award kind of in 15-minute slots. There is a sign-up link if you want to volunteer for that event in the meeting agenda. I just found out, though, that link doesn't work for some reason, so I'm going to try and get that updated, and I'll send that out to everyone here shortly. But please consider volunteering, and hope I can see more folks help us award the Fletcher Award winners on the 31st.
Thank you. Marcia, you have a question?
What time again, please?
It's from 9 a.m. until 1 p.m.
Charles, I just want to add that's the last day of early voting, so there's going to be a lot going on that day.
I was going to say the same thing. I'd move it a week. That's the last day early voting.
Yeah, it was one of the only times that worked for city staff and to secure a venue.
Can you all, I tried to sign up today on the link and saw also that it didn't work. But so can Giovanna send that out to us through email rather than having to dig back through the agenda?
Yeah.
Great, thank you. The next two committees don't have reports, but we do need chairs for both of them. So I wanted to see if anyone tonight would be interested in volunteering to be chair of the Greenway Committee.
I just saw Kendall just had what I saw was should be the next chair. I mean, I don't know what happened to whatever you were just holding,
I
but
have a nomination.
I didn't see that, missed it. Yes, Carol, go ahead.
I would like to nominate Marsha Presnell Jeanette for the chair position.
Marcia, are you interested? This is typically more of a kind of step forward and volunteer sort of thing. So if you're up for it, that'd be wonderful. You're muted. Yep.
Thank you.
Unmute. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Carol. I'm interested in serving in a position that I can be of I can work on some of the tree issues that I keep talking about. So now that we have the Sustainability, Wildlife, and Urban Trees Committee, I don't know if that might be a better match for my passion. So I am interested in doing something on behalf of our trees.
I think that sounds great. And yeah, I did want to make a point that we do have that additional committee now. So thanks for bringing that up. We broke out the urban trees from Greenway. So Greenways now stands alone. And then we have sustainability, wildlife, and urban trees.
Okay,
so
that's
Marcia,
the one.
Yep.
That's the one.
So Marcia, if you'd like to be chair of that committee, the sustainability, wildlife, that'd be great.
All right. And okay. If there's anybody else that's interested in that, I'd be happy to have a co-chair if there's somebody else that's pretty passionate.
Jennifer, I don't think nobody's going to do it. I move that we accept Marsha, what Carol just said, and she be the chair of that committee, and we can move forward.
Okay, sounds great. And then would anyone like to be the chair for the Greenway Committee? Does anyone have a particular passion about the Greenways and like to chair that up?
Really? No one's interested?
I see a hand from Beverly.
Oh, yay. Okay.
Great. Thank you, Beverly. I was kind of hoping you would do it. I know you have a particular interest there. So the next step, and we can talk about this, via email, I think, with Giovanna, will be, please don't turn off the light, honey. We'll be figuring out who's on these committees and when they're all meeting. So I think we just need to hash all that out. There's been a lot of movement in the past few months about the committees and when they're held. Chris, go ahead.
I have a very serious question for the Parks Director. So there was a fatality on the Greenway near my home on Walnut Creek maybe a month ago, and then there was a body found in Walnut Creek. Are there any updates on that? Because my community is asking me as a Parks member, and do you have any updates? We ask our CAC, they say talk to homicide. Are there any updates? Because people just aren't feeling as safe on the Greenways as they used to.
We haven't received any updates as far as if any apprehensions have been made or any results of any type of investigations or anything. But we do know that RPD and our staff have been in communications on how we can go ahead and still gain the trust that the public trust that the Greenways are safe, which they are, because these are, unfortunate but isolated incidences. And so we have been in discussions with ways that we can try to be a little bit more proactive with safety measures, whether it be with volunteer patrols, existing volunteer resources with RPD as well as ourselves. And we're looking into other scenarios such as potential security cameras in certain target areas. We are looking at enhanced lighting in certain areas like through the tunnels and things like that. So as well as public education campaigns on being more aware of your surroundings when you are utilizing the Greenway, either teaming up, not utilizing earbuds the entire time, just to be a little bit more aware. But it's constant communications. But as I mentioned, we have not received anything about apprehensions based on those unfortunate incidents.
Okay, thank you very much. And I was at Lake Johnson last weekend. There was a significant police presence. I think there was a domestic there. But thank you. I mean, there's people in my community who don't feel the safest on Walnut Creek anymore.
I understand, and RPD has been a great partner with us the entire time, and they're aware, and so they are directing resources to really kind of help us make the greenways more safe.
I hope that we'll expedite some of the lighting situations. And I went through Morrisville the other day, and they had motion activated lighting in a tunnel there, and it was really lighting in our tunnels has been an ongoing problem for a long time.
Yes, and in fact, we just had a discussion about that earlier today, about a status update on some needed lighting. So we're currently working on some of those items.
Thank you.
That update. Yeah. Great. Okay. So moving on to the rest of this, I think we're just going to email out any reports that committees have, liaisons to committees. And Lex is not here tonight anyway for the Neuse River Blueway update. I don't really have anything for the chair report other than the work plan that's attached. So I think we've gotten through it.
Can I raise one thing, Jennifer?
Sure.
And sorry, I'm in the dark, but my computer went out of, so I had to plug it in. But today I was on the website looking at the status. Somebody had asked me about the status of the Crabtree West connector to Umstead. And so I went, instead of asking tonight, I went to look it up. And there was language on there that's so apropos to what Dr. Caesar talked about equity, and it really concerned me. And it says that in talking about the stakeholders of that project, specifically it says primary stakeholders include state parks, the adjacent communities of Oak Park, Laurel Hills, and the Hamptons at Umstead. And the city is coordinating the design with these stakeholders. And that's not true. I mean, whether it's true, whether they're coordinating, that may be true, but those are not the stakeholders. The whole community uses Crabtree and Walnut Creek and all of these other greenways, and we need to not define the stakeholders of a greenway as the proximate residential, but we have to be sure that we're looking at it holistically. And so it really fit in tonight with what we heard about from Dr. Caesar, and I wanted to mention that so that we kind of change it's not just hiring things that addresses equity. It's much more, it's much deeper than that. So thank you.
Thank you, Beverly, for that input, and we'll definitely get back with staff and see what we can go ahead and do to incorporate that. Yes.
Yeah, but changing the language on the website won't be the fix. The fix is the mindset.
Is the actual action? Yes, ma'am.
Great. Thanks for that, Beverly. I think it's a good point just to think it's a whole system. It's a holistic system that is used by the entire city. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
No, I have a question.
Okay, Lindsay, go ahead.
Sorry, I know we're almost there. I was meeting up with someone recently, and they brought up a point that I think I asked about 6 months ago, and so I want to ask it again. Our park centers and gyms, I don't even remember the answer to this, but are all of them air conditioned? And if not, when will they be?
We still have a small handful of older gyms that are currently not air conditioned. We are in the process right now of getting, I believe Tarboro Road is going to be outfitted for some HVAC. And we are also utilizing the same process to see if we can go ahead and get method modified, utilizing the same contractor. So we are looking into it. So there is, you do have older facilities that are currently maybe up for new construction. And so we're trying to balance whether the best use of funds would be to either try to retrofit for the short term or put that money towards a new construction. So we are in the process of evaluating that. Stephen, do you have anything else to add about the number that we still have?
Yeah, it's 3.
3.
You hit 2. You hit 2 of the 3. The other is the second gym at Green Road. So Oscar's right. Actually, we had scheduled out for implementation and replacement of all of them over the next couple of years. Unfortunately, our CIP went from $5 million a year to $1 million this year. So we lost 75% of our capital improvements because of COVID. We actually were looking at 2 of your bond projects were Method and Tarboro.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were going to be comprehensive renovations. Actually, Tarboro was going to be a tear down and rebuild.
It was, yeah.
But as Oscar said, because that bond has been postponed, we're looking at interim ways in which we can condition those gyms. Because in reality, if a bond comes next year or the year after, it's still going to take 3 to 4 years for those new big renovations, or we'll say Tarboro's tear down and rebuild, to occur. So we think it's a great use of money to do an interim conditioning program while those designs go forward. But Green Road has 2 gyms, one's conditioned, one's not.
Okay. Okay. So I just do not think it's acceptable in North Carolina that this continues another season. Like, whatever needs to be done, resources need to be leveraged. It needs to be done. I'm hearing from people, and it makes me really angry because these are predominantly Black and brown and poor communities. And why should they have to suffer at the gym or a center that should be recreation and enjoyment in the heat? That is inhumane. I'm angry hearing that. Even if it's 3, that is 3 centers that provide experiences to kids and families. And what does that tell those kids? That they're less than, that they don't deserve that cooling? Like, my air conditioning, my furnace broke in my house this summer. And thankfully, I could spend it, half savings, half credit card. But those families are not less than or less than deserving. And so I'm going to start bringing this up at every meeting because this needs to be done. And this is the city of Raleigh. This is the capital city. This is the United States. I lived in developing country for a year, and it is hard. But this is Raleigh, North Carolina, United States. There should not be centers where kids are going for enjoyment experiences that do not have HVAC systems. It's just unacceptable.
And let me piggyback on that, Scott and Jennifer, if you don't mind. I know everybody like, damn, Kendall's talking, but let me say this. Being originally again from Raleigh, what Deborah was saying earlier, this is what is real. So again, I'm Oscar, you're new. Looking at these parks, Stephen, these parks were predominantly African American. All right? So as a person of color, that's disheartening. And for a white woman just to say that on the board, that is a problem. And when we understand equity, Beverly, we got to understand not just equity. I'm telling you, I'm going to shoot this to y'all, keep me off the board. It's just not equity. It's racial equity and understanding systematic systems. And I'm like Lindsay, for her to say there's a white woman, to say that, that's disheartening because those parks are old. Just because they're old, it goes back. JC Park now looks better than black parks look now, and the JC Park was predominantly African American. The reason why they're pushing down on Pullen Park right now to go to Chavers is because it's too much pressure on Pullen, so they're going down to Chavers. So in order for me, I'm gonna dismantle, I'm gonna disrupt. Like she just said, it is disheartening that those centers don't have AC. And when a person says minority, I'm gonna go back this. Minor means less. And hear me when I say this, because I'm angry right now. I am not, Dr. Love, a less than person.
No, sir.
So take that out your vocabulary, because words now are critical. So when somebody talking about racial equity and they still use the word minority, it's a problem. People of color, call it what it is, because black issues are different than Latino issues and white issues. So Oscar, I will challenge you, as long as I'm on this board, You and Scott, until Scott retire, I will challenge this till I'm off. Because when you disrupt, folks don't like truth. And that's not fair. It's not right. And it's been going on for years. Cut it out. Stop it. Do something. Be willing to lose something and die for something.
Now, I'll say in this case, a bond can't wait. I mean, we can't wait for a bond. It's like the NAACP has a phrase now, we done dying. Like Black and brown people are done dying due to police brutality and systemic racism. And these parks, these community centers, they can't wait anymore. It's just for them to continually be put on the back burner. I mean, we are so overdue to these communities. I wrote an op-ed in February about gentrification, and I came home and wrote it in an hour after visiting people at Tarboro Community Center and hearing about how they had been left behind, how just kind of observing, talking to people and observing it, and noticing that if I had children, I wouldn't want them to play at that playground because it was just in complete disrepair. Not because of where it is, but it's been neglected. And even the staff told me they have to be mindful of the sand because you might find needles there. And I just was like, what? Like, no. I mean, what kind of message does that send to these kids and parents? So I know it's 904, but I had to bring that up, and I will keep bringing it up, and I will bring it up to city council or whoever else, but we can't wait for a bond. It's just not fair.
Yeah.
It's overdue.
I mean, yeah, go ahead, Oscar.
No, I was just going to say, we totally understand. We have already moved up these gyms and priorities. I mean, they were long overdue. I admit that. We are working on it, not quite as fast as it should be, but staff is aware. I'm aware. We're working on it, and we're moving forward with at least Tarboro for now. Method is in process, and then we'll be looking at the second gym in Green Road as well.
Okay, thank you.
Oscar, this is not the bashing your staff at all. I'm not jumping on y'all. I think this is a problem that's bigger than the Raleigh Parks and Rec. Don't get me twisted now. I don't think it's just the y'all guys. I think it's like Beverly just said, it's the city council, and therefore who holds them accountable, because enough is enough and too much is too much. And therefore, everybody on this call right here, I guarantee you all y'all got HVAC and ACs in your house. Huh?
Yeah. And I think Kendall and Lindsay, you guys are really hitting on something that, I know Brad had been talking quite a bit about, which is finding a funding source that's more powerful, I guess, that's stronger than just relying on the bond, because it seems like the Parks Department has gotten so reliant on having to have bonds passed to really do big projects. And when they don't go through, and plus they take a long time, it's just you're relying on this one revenue source. The CIP, the general fund just aren't there big enough to support everything that we need. I mean, there's these specific issues that we need to deal with, but as a larger issue, I think that's something as a board that I would love for us to really start digging into. Marcia? Yep.
I'd like to suggest that we maybe our next meeting come up with a memo or a request to the city council that they move on this, that they find the funding and take care of these updating the air conditioning in these facilities. I don't know. It seems like that's something that we could do as a board.
Yeah.
They'd have to talk about it. If we send a message to them, they would have to talk about it.
Yeah, and Marcia, that's
goes
good.
on their record.
Right, and I think Marcia, again, that's a good point. I think again, I want Oscar to hear this. I don't think I can speak for Lindsay. I'm not jumping on Stephen and the Raleigh Parks and Rec team.
Oh no,
that's what I'm not jumping on. It's big, like Beverly said, it's bigger than that. But now but what we can do is hold Oscar accountable that he gets that memo to the city council too. That's what I think we can do. So Christina and you and Rashad, welcome to what we do. Cause this is real. You need to take that North Carolina State thing off your background anyway. No, I'm just joking. But again, this is real because again, think about this, guys. I mean, we go back being poor, right? Like, who wants to be in a center? It's 99 degrees outside, and y'all think that behavior is okay. That's unacceptable. That is, listen, that's hurtful for a person that grew up with an AC in the damn window unit in his house. That's hurtful.
So Rashawn, I see Rashawn has his hand up to say something.
Yes, just to kind of piggyback off of what Kendall and Lizzie stated, what they stated is accurate. Me being a former employee for the city of Raleigh and working at Method Road for 3 years, it is very heartbreaking to see, kids from all age ranges coming in there and participating in the activities and within that gym, and there's no AC provider for them. I mean, you talking about where Method Road hosted one of the biggest basketball leagues, the RPD league, and during the summer, and these kids, I mean, like playing in the heat, like 100 to 102 degrees temperatures in the gym. You got parents constantly complaining. I'm just amazed that, nothing catastrophically happened to any of the patrons that was there in the facility. And like I stated, being a former employee there, actually playing in that gym and other gyms across the city of Raleigh, something does need to be done like as soon as possible. And Oscar, I know you're new on board with the city of Raleigh as a director, but as you've been the director for the city of Raleigh, I think it's a very urgent need, and you're the advocate for us to push that forward or to the people that's over you. So.
Yes, definitely. And what we can probably go ahead and do is maybe provide a report or a presentation on the current status of the needs of those remaining facilities, just so you can have a picture of what the current status is and what the needs would be as far as maybe budget, and maybe also the current status of where that facility may be, in a future bond. I know we don't want to wait for a future bond, but also they have to be cognizant of the fact that we can't go in with a temporary solution if it's going to be ripped out within a year or two.
Right.
So we can go ahead and maybe provide a staff report to you all just to give you a picture of where we're at with
Yeah,
those
that's good.
facilities.
That'd be really helpful.
Great.
I can appreciate that if we have the facts, and I agree with Marcia, we as individual citizens and we as a board can appeal to city council to provide those funds. I know that councils have discretionary powers. And so, but if we're not asking for, what is the saying? The squeaky wheel gets the oil. So if we have the facts, then we as individual citizens and we as a board can appeal to city council for help once you provide us with the details.
Yes, ma'am. We'll go ahead and work on that for you all, and maybe not the next meeting, but maybe even before that through a memo.
That would be great.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Beverly just made a good comment in the chat.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a legit comment in the chat that she just made.
Could someone please remind me what CIP stands for? Because my brain's not remembering that.
Steven, do you want to comment on this, on the reason for the CIP reduction?
Yeah, the city was short basically because of COVID, tens of millions of dollars. We get an annual allocation from the general fund to support our CIP. We also get funds from facility fees. So when you build a new house, a new apartment, those are our two funding sources. And because of the city's shortfall in the overall budget, they reduced our annual allocation from about $5.5 million to $1 million. And 500,000 of that's going to Chavis improvements. Some funds are going to community facility upgrades, which Oscar talked about for Tarboro roads. And then some funds to complete the Pullen Arts Center. What we've done is the last several years is we've done one gymnasium a year. So we get $5.5 million a year. And an HVAC costs about $350,000 at a minimum. So we were doing one a year every year, working with Ken, who's not on this call. And we did Workdale recently, Biltmore recently. So we've gone through the older facilities and retrofitted them. And we also, do new paint and new carpet and and new flooring. So when you bound a project together, those projects will come in at around $1 million. But to respond to Beverly's comment, it was essentially the city's overall budget was across the board reduced, and we took a really big cut in our CIP. So, and we had 0 bond funding this year.
And that's in addition to about a $700,000 reduction to our general operating fund as well.
Yes.
Okay, Jennifer, if everybody's still commenting, I move that we adjourn until the next time.
Dr. Love, do we need a second for that? Do we have a second? Okay, thanks, Lindsay. Thanks, everybody. Great conversation as always. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you, folks.